Welcome to another edition of the Royal Alliance UK podcast, episode 327, No Proposal. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden. How are you doing, boys?
Doing good. Still recovering from a weekend of not much sleep. So tonight I'm going to go out like a candle. But hey ho, at least yesterday was a fun night.
Oh, I enjoyed a great night of sleep last night and then got up this morning and then was summarily put back to sleep by watching the Super Bowl later on. So, yeah, that was fun.
I guess we are completely different. Completely different takes on the enjoyability of that Super Bowl then.
We'll get into that for sure. We are, of course, going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to go through some of the lines news that came out of the Super Bowl week that was, and then we're going to be answering your questions. So we've got some that have been submitted in advance, but we need some more. So guys in the live chat, if you want some questions answering, then please get them into us. It'd be great to have them. And many thanks to you already in the building, including Carlton Wood, who has resubscribed with Prime on Twitch for his 29th month. Says, keep up the good work, guys. Carlton. Thank you, Carlton. Also got Brent and Mike D. Barker very early on in the chat. Several others in there too who haven't said hi, so come and say hello if you haven't already. Alright, so let's get on with the news to start with and with the preambles. So Discord channel, be great to see you guys in there. This is where we really come into our own in these next few months with all of our draft prep work. So if you want to see all the chatter and get involved, then the Discord's the best place to do that. Links in the live chat right now, or it's in the description of the podcast. So please come say hi. College Football Podcast, and I don't know what's going on this week, so you have to enlighten me.
We're starting to. We'll be doing our lists. We're sort of compiling our top 5 lists together for positions and that, and we're going to do a fun one as well. We're compiling a joint list between the two of us of draft diamonds because we day 3 has always been our wheelhouse when it comes to these sort of things. So we're going to try and predict some of the next day 3 guys coming up. So yeah, we're giving a little challenge to ourselves.
It sounds really good fun. Day 3 guys for the Lions specifically, or guys you like in that.
Oh, predicting a guy's going to be day 3 is pretty fucking easy, to be fair. I've only got like 120 spots to predict where he's going to be in, but most specifically for us,
okay,
we're gonna have a go at that and see how we do.
The hit rate has been pretty spectacular over the years, so if you want to have some knowledge and impress your friends in April, might be a good idea to listen to that one. Please do like this episode and sub to the podcast. You guys know what to do on that respect. And do go and support Lions Nation Unite as well. Home and More's project bring the best in Lions content creators together, and is often a guest on a lot of the shows from those guys. So if you want to see more of him, then please go and support them there. YouTube monetized, Twitch affiliated, tip jar down below. You guys know what to do. News. And first of all, it was revealed that the NFL's Fan of the Year is the Lions' own Megan Stefanski. I believe... did you meet Megan when we went out for the draft?
Yeah.
I was pretty sure that you did.
Okay.
Yeah. Just on a personal level, so the 2 times I've been out there, I've met with Megan. I think it said on the TV bit that she hasn't missed a home or away game in the last decade, which is absolutely incredible. So her dedication is fantastic, and she comes from the UP too, which is not a small distance away from the city of Detroit. So her dedication's unquestioned. But what really comes through to me is just how kind of a person, how lovely of a person she is. So massively well deserved, and congratulations to her to be honoured at the NFL awards. Other awards that the Lions received: Ben Johnson was AP NFL Assistant Coach of the Year, and it wasn't particularly close. Aaron Glenn got the 2nd place in 1st place votes with 6. I think overall, with how the rankings stack up, I think he might have actually ended up 3rd.
He did, behind Brian Flores.
Yeah, even though he had half as many 1st place votes, but never mind. Dan Campbell, of course, was snubbed for Head Coach of the Year. That went to the Vikings as well, and Kevin O'Connell. Fix. Otherwise, for the Lions, they have added former NFL quarterback Bruce Gradowski as an offensive assistant. He's previously the offensive coordinator at the St. Louis Battlehawks for the past 2 years. The Lions also expected to interview former NFL running back Darren Sproles, and of course, key kick returner, absolutely electric. But that news came out some days ago. I don't believe that he has signed on anywhere yet. It must be still out there, I think.
Not yet.
And otherwise, the Goths have announced that they are pregnant with their first child. So congratulations to Jared and Christian. Anything you guys want to comment on with all of those things? Obviously, a lot happened. I must admit, I don't know a huge amount about Bruce or the Battlehawks, to be honest. I don't know if either of you guys watch particularly much of the XFL or UFL, and obviously the awards and Megan and whatever you guys want to comment on.
Well, they were pretty good. Like, I think they were the second best offense both years that he was the coordinator there, and he has worked with some NFL sphere talents. I think to really flash back for people, Jordan Tamu, who people might remember from off seasons a couple of times with us. He's also worked with Akeem Butler, who Rye is a massive, massive fan of. So, watch us to sign him to a tryout deal at some point to try out for our wide receiver position. But it's pretty good, and considering people's reactions when the news was announced, people that have been around him know him, says he was made to be in our locker room. So that's always a good endorsement if people are looking around saying this just makes too much sense.
Anything you want to come in on there, Ant?
Not particularly.
Fair enough. Yeah, cool. All right, let's crack on with this. And so Super Bowl ended up 40 points to 22 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. The scoreline really flatters Kansas City, who were 24-0 down at the half and were 40-6 down, I believe, going into the final quarter. So it was an absolute demolition job. And boys, just to kind of maybe surmise the game as a whole before we maybe pick out some key moments. This was one of the more one-sided Super Bowls we've seen since Denver-Seattle.
I was thinking the last time that Mahomes lost the Super Bowl.
Did you? I mean, so, and I take it that you did not massively enjoy it.
I like competitive games. As fun as it is to watch the Chiefs get their ass absolutely handed to them, this was just not competitive. But, I give kudos to the Eagles. They watched, finally, somebody watched what the Bucs did to them all those years ago and re-implemented it again. And that is to have a dominant front four who can just go and absolutely cause absolute hell. And then you can keep plenty of people back, keep the playmakers quiet, keep the run game down. It was dominance. It was sheer impressiveness from them, and they kind of had to do it out their wheelhouse as well. Saquon wasn't necessarily running the ball very well. Like Casey stacked up against them, but they took advantage by taking more shots downfield, more one-on-one matchups. They just completely outplayed them. Like Kansas knew they had to keep Saquon quiet, but in doing so, they overcommitted, got exposed, and on the other side of it, they just couldn't do anything to keep that front four out of their backfield, and it was just a very good game management. Like all of it, like that front four was so good, and they weren't just rushing them all the same time. The guys were dipping inside, they were moving them all over the place. Like the Chiefs' offensive line couldn't get themselves set because they didn't know where it was coming, and bringing any extra blitzers, and they still got no idea where the pressure's coming from. So it's a supremely masterful coaching job on their part, and just it was, again, to actually watch how they did it was fun. But I like a competitive game, and like after two quarters, like not even a half time, you knew this thing was dead. I mean, the Chiefs didn't have a possession in the Eagles' half till 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Like, kind of shows you what kind of a game it was. But all congrats to Philly. Like, deserved winners, absolutely. And they've done it the right way. They've nearly been there. They've come back. They've learned their lessons. They've watched the tape they needed to watch, and they fully exposed the Chiefs. weather week and made them look average. So yeah, right team won it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's true. Like I've got some some of the next gen stats saved on my phone from halftime because I've shown them to my flag football team while we're enjoying Kendrick Lamar's. I enjoyed the halftime show at least.
I did.
But just
so
I thought it was great.
It was awesome.
Thank you. Exactly. Like I'm seeing there. We'll get onto it later probably, but the fact that some of the reactions was like, Jesus, you did not get the point. But they're dropping next gen stats are dropping stuff like Mahomes averaged minus 1.36 EPA per drop back in the first half, which is the 10th worst mark in any first half in any game since 2018. The rest of the list includes the Darnold Ghosts game, 2 Davis Mills games, and starts from PJ Walker and Will Greer for the Panthers. It wasn't really going well. And the fact that, the Eagles were getting to Mahomes on 47% of his dropbacks without one blitz. Just domination from that front force. And then the second we played as well, I think I put it in our Discord at one point during the third quarter. Cooper DeJohn at that point had a 96.0 grade from PFF, which I know PFF isn't the big be all and end all, but that's utter domination when you're getting that kind of grade. And even their final grade should come out. DeJohn 90.9. Milton Williams has earned himself a bag going up against their left guard, who was just a turnstile, kind of like Graham was for us, 90.9. Arojo, who was backing up Milton Williams, 89.5. Just everyone went to work. Hell, Jalix Hunt, who obviously we lived in the pre-draft process last year, him getting to Mahomes, they had that offensive line on toast, which, they get some leeway because they were playing a left guard, a left tackle, and all this. Liam and DJ really going to be happy now because Jalen Carter put tape on how to beat their right guard, Trey Smith, who, I'm very much predicting Ben Johnson's going to go call him up and say, hello, do you mind playing for the Bears? We'll give you $26 million a year. And he's going to go, yes. I'm predicting, hot take, and I will clip this, and then if it doesn't happen, I will post it and make fun of myself. Trey Smith will be the right guard for the Chicago Bears next year. We've got teach tape on how to beat him now from that game. So Liam and Reeder and Casey Rogers are going to be licking their lips because that's a matchup they can exploit next year.
It was a really odd game just because of all the narratives coming into it, that it was going to be, the Eagles are the better overall team, but Mahomes is a far better quarterback, and that has mattered throughout this season for Kansas City, where Mahomes isn't even playing particularly well through most of this year, but the team are doing enough to keep winning these games. And, it was like, is Hurts going to be able to do anything? I mean, the number of times he's thrown for over 200 yards this season is pretty embarrassing. And, it's like Kansas City just kind of listened to everyone saying, well, you can't let Saquon beat you. If you're going to get beaten by Jalen Hurts. It was one of the most impressive quarterback performances I've seen in a Super Bowl in a long, long time. I mean, he knew where his matchups were. He was decisive in the pocket. The fourth down throws to A.J. Brown were excellent. He knew that A.J. Brown, that was like the matchup they wanted to go after, but they didn't go after that on third down. They went after it on fourth down. And otherwise, they kept with the run, despite the fact that it wasn't working massively. I think Saquon went at like 2.5 yards a carry or something like that. But they stuck with it to kind of grind down Kansas City, make sure that Hurts wasn't in like really bad situations in terms of being behind the sticks. They knew they were going for 4 downs a lot of the time. When he threw the ball, he was accurate. But what was really impressive was Kansas City, and I put it in the Discord, but I'll recant it here. When Philly were bringing pressure, it was 4, but it was the sort of can crush style collapse the pocket. But also because the linebackers are so good with their side-to-side ability, when Mahomes was trying to escape out of the pocket, either he was getting caught from behind or he was getting met in front of him, so he could barely scramble. Whereas all of the Chiefs' pressure was coming outside the tackles when they were bringing blitzes, which just created A and B gap areas which Hurts could just escape through. As soon as he saw man coverage and that a guy wasn't free for him after 1 or 2 seconds, he was gone. And it's the sort of ability that's what Mahomes used to do in the first few years of his career. he would bail kind of quite quickly, get 10 or 15 yards, live to fight another down. But he couldn't escape upfield because of the way that Philly were pressuring him. And normally the way that you get stuck like that is by bringing pressure. The fact that Philly managed to do it with just 4 every single rep was staggeringly impressive. I mean, people talk about Kansas City in this offensive line like it's an above average unit. And you know what? It is. It is an above average unit. But Philly made them look like high schoolers. It was an embarrassing performance by the Chiefs' offensive line. And it goes to show you exactly what happens when first round, year after year after year, you go, yeah, I know it seems gratuitous to do it again, but I'm going defensive line. And it pays dividends when, like, really, if Hurts had been terrible in this game but just hadn't thrown picks, if they just punted the ball every possession, then Kansas City might have still lost. It was that bad.
Yeah, it was. And again, like, these are all, like, that interior, most of it's all pro for them. And they didn't know what they were doing, but that's what happens when you change up the schemes and the looks and what you're doing with them. They're unset, they're not right. And then the thing is, because you do it so early, and they kept saying it on the broadcast, and they're right, they unsettled Mahomes. He started moving around the pocket a lot more than he's used to doing. So all of a sudden, like, like later in the game, the protections looked like they were getting a bit better, but then Mahomes was putting himself in situations because he was making throws because he was expecting the pressure to come. So it's almost just putting that fear in there helps you as well and makes it harder for your line when Mahomes is just like, I can't do this now. And you're right, they just exploited the matchups absolutely perfectly, and they got the right guys in to do it. They've drafted well for years, the right kind of guy, the right kind of culture, the right kind of temperament, and eventually it's got them to where they want to go. So, you know, it's going to be tough. They're going to be good. Obviously, they're going to have to retool it a bit this year with all the money and everything. But if there's one person you wouldn't put it past to do it, it's Howie. So yeah, it was. You've got to appreciate the job they've done there. It has been a tremendous roster building job that they've done. So obviously Sirianni started at the same time as Campbell did. Obviously they had a bit of a better roster, but still they've made this thing legitimate for a long time to go. So, you know, they are the standard bearers right now, and we've got to we've got to get up to their level.
There's obviously some really big moments in the game as it went through. I mean, Eagles started off with a punt. Kansas City started off with a punt in their first possessions. And then it was all Eagles, really. I mean, they went 7-0 up, and then Hurts threw a kind of arm punt pick, but obviously that was picked off at like the 3-yard line, so they still had 97 yards to go, the Chiefs. And from then on, I don't think the Chiefs had a good moment in the game, with the exception of garbage time. I think maybe the first big moment where the nail was going in the coffin, the Chiefs go 10-0 down after a field goal by Jake Elliott from 48 yards. And in the next possession, 10-0 down, you think, okay, but Mahomes, if he drives down the field here, as he probably will, it's a 3-point game and it's back on Hurts and Saquon to do this. And now you have the pick 6 by Cooper DeJean. I know that, you know, Mahomes didn't have his best game, and I know there's lots of great jokes out there about exactly what it is with Cooper DeJean, like he's so good, he's basically black, if you know what I mean. With some of he's playing like Cooper DeJean as opposed to Cooper DeJean. I just thought it was really funny. But, you know, the pick 6 there was built off consecutive sacks in the lead up to that play. Josh Sweat, and then a sack split by Hunt and Sweat. So it left it at 3rd and 16, 10-0 down, facing having to punt again. And DeJean returns it 38 yards for the touchdown. It kind of felt in that moment, with them not really getting anything done, and they weren't able to stop the defensive line, and Mahomes is starting to panic a little bit, boys, that even at this point, which is 8 minutes into the game, that it was almost going to be a bridge too far even from then.
I mean, he lost the DB. Mahomes never loses where the DBs are. That's why he doesn't turn it over that often. But because, like I say, he's panicking and he's trying to get the ball out and he's trying to get a bit of a chunk, he just absolutely, because you can see him, he stares DeJean down to start the play. And then he's looking at his receiver and he just loses him. He has no idea he's there ready to jump the route and take it. And again, pressure does funny things to a quarterback. It doesn't just happen to the likes of Jared Goff. When you do it to Paddy, even he will start to make mistakes when he's getting, like, 'cause the hits he would take him were brutal. They really lasted on him and they really impacted what he was doing. Obviously, it's a great pick. And then that just kind of kills the momentum dead then and there. And like you say, after that point, there was just no coming back when you're that far behind. Philly's style of offense, they have long, arduous drives. They take a lot out of you, and then you've somehow got to overcome that four-man rush. Like, not many teams are going to be able to do that. So, like, it's a great bit of play from DeJong, but yeah, it just goes to show what the pressure did to Paddy. It rattled him, and he stopped seeing things that he normally sees, and that's what happens. And they just happened to do it in the biggest game of the year, which was great. But you're talking beforehand about that hot take about a certain player falling out the top 15 in the draft, probably because a lot of defensive linemen have been elevated after this performance, and teams are going to be like, that's what we need to do in future. So that's probably seeing a repercussion from that. Like, well, everybody wants that now.
Yeah, like so is what that particular sort of play was watching it, and yeah, just Mahomes loses DeJong. It's quarters, which the Eagles run hell of a lot under Fangio. They're one of the best at doing it, and yeah, just losing for a second, DeJong jumps it, and that was one of the turning points. I was saying to Matt in the pre-show as well. I was sitting next to my friend Flag, who is a massive Eagles fan, wearing side controllers. I just turned to him, we looked at each other in hugs, because at that point we kind of knew, yeah, with 8 minutes left in the second quarter, we knew it. That was it, because that was the perfect drive for the Eagles. Because after that, Mahomes is extra wary. He's feeling the pressure at that point, and it just carried on, because then the next drive, they come back pretty much straight away and they have to go 3 and out. Eagles don't do well. And then the next one play, and then Zach Bourne, who's QB spying, sees the route coming and jumps it. And suddenly, 24-0. It's 3 and out again. Well, pretty much 3 and out from Kansas. And it's the end of the half. They kneel the ball. Like that, that was the driving point, that sort of little 2-minute bit there where you had the 2 interceptions. That was the nail in the coffin, because just there was the look had gone from them. Like before the Super Bowl, Mahomes had not been picked off in 8 games. Being picked off twice in basically 2 minutes did it, because the black magic had just run out. And for all the hype with Mahomes in Super Bowls, when he's in Super Bowls, he's only got 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, shows that maybe he's not the GOAT after all.
Yeah, 3 turnovers for Kansas City really didn't help in this game, but I mean, they were earned. There was nothing lucky about any of that. And even starting the second half, 24-0 down, okay, but it's only 3 possessions. End up going 5 plays before another punt. Sweat ended that drive with another sack. And then you get a field goal to push it to a 4-possession lead, and then a 1-play 46-yard pass to Smith. 34-0. It's just terrific. It was.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone saw it coming. As someone who picked Philadelphia, not to take too much of a victory lap on that, but it was easy to say, I think Philly are the better team. But it's still Kansas City. It's still the Super Bowl. They still have one of their best seasons in franchise history in terms of the number of wins that they've had. It may not be the best team they've ever had, and I think that was obvious from the way that they played throughout the year. It's still, like with us in our record this year, one of the best seasons they've ever had. So I think to come in and say you think that Philly are going to destroy them, I think you'd have been laughed at a little bit, but nothing about this was lucky. And even, calls seemed to go either way. There were bad calls going against both teams. There's nothing anyone can say about the refs in this. There might have been a weak OPI. There might have been a weak holding call. A couple of other bits and pieces. It went either way. So there's nothing that the Chiefs can hang their hat on here. So let's move on a little bit and maybe talk about what this means. Obviously, it's a hugely influential title for Philadelphia and Nick Sirianni. And for a lot of that team, do you guys think that, because obviously Howie's one of the better GMs out there, we know that too.
Yes.
There's a lot of players on this team which need to get paid. Do we think this is the best that the Eagles are going to be for a little while because they've kind of hit the right moment where everything's kind of come to fruition at this point? And not that they'll be resetting at any point because their depth is so good, but maybe some of their better players are either going to be leaving them, or maybe they've got some vets who are just getting that 1 year older and they might be leaving as well. I'm thinking about Darius Slay with that one, who has indicated he's probably not going to return. I think there's a lot of reasons to think perhaps that this is maybe the best Eagles team we'll see, even if the drop-off is small. But that there's a good chance for the rest of the NFL to topple them next year.
I don't think you're going to see a remote drop-off. I mean, like Howie, they always say the one thing Howie's good at is vastly underpaying his trenches so that his roster can be built really well around them. You know, at their top 10 cap hits this year, only 4 of them are trench guys, and one of them didn't even play in this game. Like, to get the trenches they have, they're so good, and you've got so little money going into them. That's the scary bit. You know, they can still draft more guys on that. Like, some would say they do need another edge. They'll need another edge rusher next year. They might potentially do that again. You know, but you know they've drafted a lot recently. You've still got a lot of young guys on there. That interior of their line's set. Their 2 tackles are set. You know, depending on whether they bring Becton or not, they're going to be pretty set there. So those trenches aren't going anywhere, really. Even if you lose Milton Williams, you know, even if you lose Josh Sweat, and who knows, they might be able to pay these guys. I don't know exactly what their cap situation is, but you can move money around. You're not, for a lot of these guys who are on rookie deals as well, you can push it down the line. You don't have to give it right away. You know, it's going to be a very good team regardless. Now, guys like Zach Bourne and that might hurt if he leaves. They're going to have to bite the bullet somewhere, but I think the core of what makes them is still there. Saquon's still going to be there. Hurts is still going to be there. The wide receivers are still going to be there. So no, I don't think the drop-off is going to be massive if they don't want it to be.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that actually kind of helps them, because I've got to backtrack up, is okay, yeah, the 19th in the NFL, well, 16th in total cap right now, 19th in top 51 cap space. They were also carrying the 6th biggest dead cap hit this year. So they're going to get some of that back. Like, they had 16 million going to Jason Kelsey, 10 million going to Fletcher Cox, 2 million going to Devin White.
That's for 2025. That's not 2024. That's what they're carrying for 2025.
Oh God!
I'm on the same page as you. That is this year's.
I misread it.
This is the new year that you're looking at. Kelsey is counting.
Well, if you count 2024, they had 65 million in dead cap this year,
which is pretty staggering, really.
Which is a quarter of their cap. It's not available to them. And you're just wheeling names off there, right? Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, like these guys they've not had this year, and their trenches are still amazing. Like, you've just lost one of the best centers in football. You've just lost, like, a great defensive tackle. You didn't know those two weren't in this game, like, at all.
Yeah, exactly. And, okay, yeah, they'll lose Milton Williams. Well, they've got a Rodron who came in, who was playing pretty well. You've got Jordan Davis, who can step up and take some snaps as well, finally, hopefully. They'll be able to reload the okay. Maybe they need a bit of red rusher, but they can just resign Josh Sweat, and even then, they can just draft a guy. Like as I was saying, they can draft a guy. They've got the sort of faith. We've got the faith with them that okay, yeah, they know everyone. Well, quite a lot of people have to take off. Oh yeah, the big losers from this Super Bowl are the Lions because it shows they need to trade for Myles Garrett. No, I know. I know Anne spoke on this on Twitter today with the whole debate that's going on in our fandom. We don't need to go and make that big move because they never really have. The one big move they've made is the AJ Brown trade, which I still find hilarious now that AJ Brown has got two times the amount of Super Bowl rings than Treylon Burks has got receiving touchdowns for the Titans since that trade. They've always invested in the draft, in the trenches, and then lower, like sort of low to mid level free agents. Like Zach Bourne, that wasn't a big name before this year. Like people might have known him because he's kind of that perfect Sam linebacker because he used to play edge at college, and then the Saints drafted him and kind of moved him to a bit more off ball, like we did with some of our players. That wasn't a big signing. Everyone wanted Andrew Van Gink in that position. Nope, they signed Zach Bourne for $3.5 million and basically triple his value in a season. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. And that the thing that's going to hurt, honestly, I think the loss that's going to probably hurt the most out of the losses they're going to have now is Kellen Moore, because what he did with their scheme this year, especially after the bye where they're going 2-2. I know everyone's pointing to Nick Sirianni shaving his head and suddenly they become one of the best teams like that. No, it's Kellen Moore going into the bye and going, hang on, we're asking Jalen to pass too much here. We need to cut back on the passing numbers. We've got one of the best running backs in the league. We've got a rushing QB. Let's use that to our strength. And suddenly they become one of the best teams in the league. They're going to have to find someone who's got that sort of level of trust in themselves to be like, okay, yeah, I know we can pass the ball, but we shouldn't be doing it all the time. We need to keep the sprinkling of the run game. So that's the big one for me, is whoever replaces Kellen Moore at OC. That's the big decision for them, not getting these guys, because I think they've got enough trust in the bank that Howie will be able to sort it out. I know he's had misses before. Every GM does. He'll be able to reload with some guys. He always will be. Like, how if they do lose Zach Bourne, we've got a guy who might be a bit cheaper because he's coming off an injury, who plays that exact same role.
Yeah, someone's going to find themselves absolutely bargain with Derek Barnes for sure. Yeah. It's true. What about on the Kansas City side? And what does this mean for them? Obviously, a chance to three-peat, which they didn't do, but very few people ever go back-to-back, never mind 3. I mean, was it only them and the Patriots that have ever done it back-to-back or something like that? So, still in rarefied territory, but it has felt like all season, even with the wins that I mentioned for Kansas City, that this team has taken a step back, despite the wins. And the way that they were dismantled here, do you think it gives them any cause for concern going forward?
No, I think this is where you're Kansas now and you look and you go, right, let's retool this roster. I think the wins of the past couple of years they've kind of papered over the crap that the offensive line has had issues. Like they've had issues at receiver in some cases. You know, they've had issues on this roster and holes they've not filled, but because they've been winning so much, because Paddy's like he's brought them over some of these failures. It's like people said, Philly the better team, but everyone expected, well, a lot of people expected Mahomes to still go and win this one anyhow. I think for them now, you now look properly at readjusting your roster. Like you start with your line. Depending on what you do with Trey Smith and that, you've got to go into, you need to go find yourself some new time. We talk about like Jalen Hurts and what they do, and Ash mentioned like what they've done to protect him. Like bringing Saquon Barkley means he's not running the ball as much. When he's not running the ball as much, he's staying healthier. He's able to throw the ball more. You know, they've played into his wheelhouse. They've got to rebuild around Patrick now, starting with that front 5 and protecting him more, because some of the shots were just vicious. I mean, that one where he got strip sacked, I thought the guy who hit him forced the fumble. I didn't realize the second guy had stripped the thing in beforehand, and you looked and you're like, he's got to be in some pain. Like, really, he does. And he's your franchise guy. You've got him on books for the next decade. You're going to be competitive again at one time or another, but you've got to start tooling around him again now and building a younger roster back up. Like they brought in a lot of veteran guys this year, DeAndre Hopkins they brought in, Kareem Hunt they brought in, try get them over the line. Start getting some more rookies in the building now. They generally do well drafting. Like they draft a lot of good talented players, but maybe just do that. Maybe have a year or two where you're a little down or they'll always be in contention, but they need to go after the obvious roster deficiencies here now and just retool themselves up ready for another go. Because, I mean, no one in their division's ready to touch them just yet. So it doesn't really matter if you have a year or two off. You're still going to be right up there. So now, I think this is just the time when they're going to come down off a bit of a high, rebuild, and they'll be back again very quickly.
You are on mute, sir.
There we go. So I was going to say, like, I think there's definitely one team in their division that could touch them if they do have a retooling year.
Oh, I didn't
Chargers.
realise you were that fan of the Raiders. But,
They got
Yeah,
90
Pete
million.
Carroll, he's a serial winner.
They got 90 million in cap space, they do. And an edge rusher to trade for some more draft assets. Wink, wink.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why more people aren't linking Kirk Cousins to the Raiders, by the way. That feels more like a fit for me than the other place that he's been linked with very heavily.
How silly does Davante Adams feel at this point? He could have waited and Aaron Rodgers could have gone there. They could have played in Vegas together.
That's not the QB they've been linked with the insiders.
No, I know that isn't the QB they've been linked with. I'm just saying I don't know why it hasn't been linked.
True. But you're a fan of the QB they're supposedly going to get in free agency anyway. So that's going to be fun.
For Josh Allen. Wow.
No.
That's a big move. Kind of Buffalo would allow that.
Who is it?
Sam Darnold. They've been linked heavily with Sam Darnold in the past 24, 48 hours, supposedly. But anyway.
Do not see Pete Carroll doing that.
With that offensive line, like, with all respect to Darnold, he would get killed behind that line.
Yeah, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, but that is something the Raiders would totally do. They got 90 million in cap. They would go and spend it on someone like Darnold and then just let him die.
Yeah. But yeah, to get back to the actual way anyway, like if the Chiefs do retool, they'll still be competing in that division. They'll probably still win it next year, but the Chargers and arguably the Broncos will put them more of a fight next year. Like second season, Bo Nix with a few more weapons, maybe another interior offensive line piece to help him. That defense retool a bit. The Chargers, slowly but surely working the charginess out of them, actually, getting some winning culture in there. I know obviously got Harbaugh and they did well this year, but they're still charged in a way. So getting that out of their system, they'll be still there. But yeah, there's just, I don't know. Like Spags is a great defensive coordinator, and he definitely did his best yesterday. But the defense didn't really help the offense that much. I know obviously they can't. It's like kind of like with us, like they can't really help each other in a way. You can't just turn around and say you need to stop them here. They're symbiotic. So when Travis Kelce's dropping passes left, right, and center, doesn't really help. But they didn't really. I know obviously we're saying they focused on stopping Saquon, and they kind of did, but that's because they were just running him inside a lot. They were just trying to grind the clock down. Like they were happy to go, 2-yard carry, 2-yard carry, 2-yard carry.
I don't think that's fair. I mean, early on in the game, they ran Saquon, I think, on every first down in the first half, potentially, and he didn't go anywhere. Like, it wasn't all just inside runs. Some of it was outside too. I agree in the second half, absolutely. But Saquon, I don't know what his longest run was, but I don't recall him getting a run of 10 yards.
He got one run of 10 yards. He got one, so he did pop him off. But so I'm not giving him 100. That's what I'm trying to say is I'm not giving him 100% credit that like, oh yeah, they stopped Saquon Barkley, and then they kind of got caught out. Like, I think the Eagles in a way with that run game pattern didn't have a good plan for Saquon. I would have ran him outside more. I was saying to my friend, I was like, why'd you just keep going up the A gap? Like, I know they've got decent run defending edges and Nick Bolton can fly out to the sideline to sideline, but their other linebackers aren't that good. Like, you should be trying to get him outside but instead it was just A gap. But
I mean, they did throw screens to him a lot. Like they got him on the perimeter in the passing game a lot. Which worked. Like sometimes, there was one where Nick Bolton flew down and got him for a loss of 2, but the screens were kind of working. The one that really I loved to play was the big pass to Dallas Goedert, where they had him literally block and release, kind of like Brock Wright play. Instead of being like a 2-yard drag, it was a 10-yard in, and he got 30 yards off that. They attacked those linebackers, which kind of made me smile because it meant finally my Leo Chanel takes were coming true. But the Kansas City secondary wasn't there either. Like they were getting close to AJ Brown, but some of those plays, like the touchdown to Devonta Smith, how did he get that wide open? It was insane.
And it was an insane throw from Hurts as well, right into the breadbasket. I had to turn around to my friend and be like, because at halftime we're like, oh yeah, ranking QBs that are worse than Jalen Hurts overall, but a better passer. And it was pretty much we named pretty much every single QB in the NFL. But then I had to turn around to Andy and say, okay, sorry, like I didn't know your game, Jalen Hurts. That was a bucket throw. But you just defend like I agree with Ant though. They do need to get younger. They need to get rid of some of the guys they've kept around for a while. Like Justin Reed, I know he's only 28 and he's seen as a figurehead there, but I don't know. Has he been worthy of the $10.5 million they paid him this year?
Yes.
I don't know.
Unquestionably, yes, for me.
Fair. But just some of the other guys like Charles and Ron, you get cheaper there. Josh, like you traded for Josh Uche and you didn't even have him active. I know you've only paid him $3 million this year on his contract, but he's a free agent now. Like, there's a guy you try to bring in to fix your pass rush, and arguably in the one game you really needed as many pass rush weapons as you can against a great Eagles line, you don't play him.
I guess, but if you did play Uche, for me, the defensive scheme was wrong. This is the first time in a Super Bowl I can say, I think Spags laid an egg. Big time.
Yeah.
He's got such a great track record that I'm not going to go and say I think Spags is bad. It's just in this game where he's typically, done really well against Hurts in the past, kind of allowed the Eagles came up with a great game plan. He had no answer for it.
Yeah.
In the few good plays they did have, he blitzed through the A gap, which is what you meant to do.
Yes.
And then he just spent too many blitzes around the edge, and then, like you say, Hurts free to go off and run.
Yeah.
Like, crazy. But, like, this Chiefs team's talented, and I agree, they do need to get young. Like, there's nothing wrong with Pacheco at running back. You don't need, you don't need Kareem Hunt there. You've got a great trio of young wide receivers. You've got Rashee Rice in there. You've got Xavier Worthy in there. You've got Sky Moore in there. You've got guys like that. You don't need the old veterans in front of them. Let these guys come to the fore now. And then bring your starters in and rebuild that way. And rebuild young with less cap hits on their money to spend elsewhere where you really need to. And there's lots of positions where this applies, where there's young guys waiting to come through who they've just put vets in front of. Don't stifle their development.
Yeah. All right, let's move on from the Super Bowl because we have now lots of questions to get to. And thank you everyone for submitting questions. Do keep submitting them. We'll keep taking them because we haven't been talking for too long yet. Anyway, going to start off with the ones that we had submitted in advance. So thank you to Damien Smith 7275 on YouTube, who has some questions which start off with, which of the Eagles' many free agents would you want to see on the Lions? Now, let me give you a list of the free agents for the Philadelphia Eagles, and let's see if you have interest in any of these guys. Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Zach Bourne, Mekhi Becton, Avonte Maddox, CJ Uzoma, Milton Williams, LaRaven Clark, Rick Lovato, Fred Johnson, Oren Burks, Jack Driscoll, Nick Gates, Isaiah Rodgers, Britton Covey, Kenneth Gainwell, and Ben Van Summeren. Any of those taking your fancy?
I would bring Mekhi Becton here in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Especially if Zeitler says he doesn't want to come back. But specifically for, we need talented depth on the line. We do. And he looks really good. I think you can pay him a decent amount, but he's not going to break the bank for you. And he's going to give you good positional coverage at two positions. You can still use him as a tackle if need be in some circumstances. So like he'd be the first one I'd be after on this list.
Yeah, same. Becton for sure. And then if Barnes does go and we keep the same kind of scheme and we need that Sam linebacker and Brad and the regime thinks it's prudent enough to pay the 10, 12 million dollars a year for Bourne to come in and play that role, I'd be happy with that because we saw when Barnes went down how important that kind of scheme was to us, that position especially, because you did have a drop off in our run defense when Barnes went down because the whole scheme is predicated on playing that 4-3 with that Sam linebacker being an extra rusher. So getting someone who is one of the best players at that position would upgrade our defense.
I mean, Bourne, Anzalone, and Campbell would be sick.
Yeah, that
Like,
would be the best
completely and
linebacker
utterly,
trio in the league.
completely and
Yes.
utterly sick. And then we've got good depth here for that position as well. It's like that sorted instantly.
Mm.
I mean, you look at them all and you'd be like, there'd be a case for the vast majority of them probably like on there, but obviously some of them are going to be too high priced and out of reach there, but
Or retired.
or
In the case of
retired.
Brandon Graham, or yeah. Hell,
I'm pretty
Should-
sure,
should-
didn't Tom Brady say Brandon Graham was a teammate of his at Michigan? I could be wrong there, but or he might. I know they're both Michigan guys. He might not have been a teammate, but he's been in the league in a long time. What is it? 16 seasons he's been in, something like that.
This was his 14th.
14th.
Yeah,
So he'd probably have been there after. He
uh,
probably wouldn't have been with Brady actually.
No, yeah, he went to Michigan from 2006 2009.
No, Brady was long
He
gone
is though. He is though from Detroit. He went to Crockett High School.
then. I think there's a few Detroiters win a Super Bowl
Ooh.
ring this time. There are a couple of
Ooh.
guys from Detroit there.
Can I put Brandon Graham in as one of the free agents I want to sign, but not as a player?
as a coach.
Assistant. We need a new assistant defensive line coach.
Bring
Do
him
players
home.
typically? It could be. It's a shout.
Sean Dion Hamilton did it.
If he wants to go right into it, maybe I don't know. You feel like you'd want a year off, wouldn't you? And then you'd come back and do it. But I guess if you want to get straight in, come to be the hot ticket.
Another question from Damien says, should the Lions, and so there's two people with the question, should the Lions have a more flexible defensive front? I keep seeing, quote, crush the can edges in mock drafts and wonder about speed to power rushes such as Green, Azaraku and Stewart. And then we had a question from Aaron Schreier on YouTube as well. He says, also to piggyback off the Damien question on the defensive front, should we have a different defensive scheme in general in regard to the defensive line? So should we change the scheme? What do you think about Green, Azaraku and Stewart as a solution to the edge vacancy that we potentially have, as opposed to having a big end at that end instead? So what do you guys think?
Well, people know from when we hired Casey Rogers that I've predicted we're changing back to 3-4 because that's what Rogers has coached for donkey's years, and Shep has actually got more experience in 3-4 than he does 4-3. And yeah, it would allow us that flexibility because Hutch has played off outside linebacker. AQ's done it if we bring him back. Quite a lot of the guys we've got on the edges can fit into that sort of 3-4 scheme if you want to do a bit more multiple, not to obviously bring back flashbacks of Patricia, but being able to do more multiple fronts, being odd on certain downs and playing even. I'm 100% for it. So yeah, getting someone like Green, if he's there with our pick, or Stewart or Ezeraku in round 2, or another one that I'm a big fan of, Ashton Gillott from Louisville, those kind of edge rushers. I'm all for it. I'm all for having that change because as much as I like our defensive scheme and it worked for the personnel we have, it does it well. Some of them, it gave Hutch a lot of opportunities, gave Malim a lot of opportunities. It did really hurt the production of players like Josh Pascal, John Kaminsky, Levi. When he was having to play out on the edge, he wasn't being put in the best position. So just being able to put our players in the best positions, if that means changing to the 3-4, doing a bit more of those kind of looks, I'm all for it.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I've been on record saying this for a bit now. We need to just maybe not change what we're doing, but we need to change the type of player we've got. We do not have enough players who can win one-on-ones. We do not have enough players who can get to the quarterback quick enough. We have a lot of guys who can collapse a pocket, but there's a difference between being able to bring a pocket inwards to make a QB feel uncomfortable and actually getting to him and making him make stupid choices. You saw with the guys on Philly's line, these are guys who were beating their man off the snap so quickly and were getting to him, but they were still collapsing the pocket at the same time as one unit. But we just need guys who've got more to their pass rush arsenal. There's just not that many of them who've got that much going for them. which needs to change. So when you're looking guys here, you look guys who've got technique, you look guys who've got variance, you look at guys who set up their pass rush in the long term and find weaknesses on there. We just don't have enough of these guys. So when you're looking for guys like, athleticism's great, strength's great, but you need to see what they're doing with the hands. You need to see how quick they can win off the line of scrimmage. That is what we need, especially if you're going to go to a three-man front. You're going to need more from those guys. You're going to need this violent, disruptive guys who just break everything down the way they did. We don't have enough of those guys. So, we just need to, for me, draft a different style of player.
More polished player.
Yeah. Just guys who've got it in their arsenal and know what to do. Hutch is great at it. Like, Hutch just, I know Hutch loves to spin like a fucking twist top, but at the same point, you see him pull out bull rushes, you see him, but tackles don't know how to deal with him because they don't know what's coming next. If you go back and watch a lot of our games, you just see guys getting pushed inwards, and that's it. That's a lot easier for an offensive lineman to deal with when he knows he's just got to give some ground, but he's not getting anything that he's not expecting. So you need guys who have the technical ability as well as the physical attributes to go with it. That's why people like Mike Green a lot. Because Mike Green does. He pulls out every single little trick in the book when it comes to his rushing. And that's why you should like him over someone who may be from a bigger school, who may be more powerful and strong, but just doesn't have a clue what to do with it. You need that both in the interior and on the edge as well. So that's what you got to look for this time.
All right. Damien's also got a question about the 2025 kickoff. He's saying, how do you fancy opening day at the Eagles at the Link in September? So the choices that the league have to open the season next year for the Eagles, it's got to be in Philadelphia. So they've got to they've got to be at home. So against the teams they're facing at home are the Commanders, Cowboys, Giants, Bears, Lions, Raiders, Rams, Broncos. Those are the only teams who can be in opening day now against the Eagles. And I've seen a few comments saying this, but basically I think the only ones that make sense there are Washington and Detroit. I don't think Dallas makes sense. I think that the way things ended for them this year is kind of dull. I'm not sure that would be the draw that... Maybe it's got a good chance just because. It's in division though, they don't like to do that early on in the season. Otherwise, I know that the Rams were a playoff team, but I don't know. There's not any sort of storyline there, I don't think. Broncos could be interesting, but I think the one that really does just speak to me in terms of it not being in division, that there's some storyline there, that the Lions are the kind of, I don't know whether to call us pretenders given what happened to us in the playoffs this year, but the team that feels like it should be there versus the incumbent champions. I think the Lions being an opening day makes all the sense in the world. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I can just see it happening. I didn't even realise, but I did joke with my friend yesterday when I was leaving. I was like, oh yeah, see if a Thursday night football kickoff. It just makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it?
It does. Although part of me, I don't want to be opening game. I want to get Judas and the Bears at Ford Field week 1 so we can stick a knife in them very quickly and very resolutely. That's the one I really want on opening week. We'll not get it because they don't do divisional matchups so early, and plus, when you're coming up against that Eagles team, I want Aleem back, and he's not going to be back for that. I want us to be at full power to face them. And, when you're running, I want one of my best run stuff in D. I want one of my best interior D tackles on my team when we play them. So, no, I'm good. And plus, it'll be Aiden's first game back after a big-ass long layoff as well. Get the team up and running. We're going to have so many players coming back off injury. Let's get the rust out the system, and then let's get the Eagles. I would rather not have them week 1. I'm going to be perfectly honest with that.
Ian Rappaport's just tweeted that Jalen Hurts is on floats in Disney World.
Good for him. After all the
I
crap
love it.
After all the
love it.
crap they've given him, like all these in bootlicking him now, I reckon you could go back in history and see times when they were all giving him
Oh,
grief.
Oh yeah.
And
I'll see if I can find it. There was a tweet earlier that was basically that way. It was just a
someone
screenshot
will
of
have it. Yeah,
of all the when they drafted him, like Harry Roseman's lost his mind. What is this? But when Eagles had needs at corner, wide receiver, and DT, they've taken another
yeah,
quarterback despite having their franchise guy in Carson Wentz, and it's just what.
exactly. And like from point of view of a player being disrespected and just been rudely treated, like he's up there. No, I don't think I try and think of myself. Have I been that mean to? I don't feel like I have. I think a lot of people have been though, and a lot of people doubted him and his ability. And like he's won a Super Bowl before Josh Allen, before Lamar Jackson, before any of these guys. And like there's no other QB in the league apart from Goff who deserves a Super Bowl more than he did. So
Yeah. All right. Last one from Damien was, are there any free agent corners you'd like to see if Carlton Davis doesn't come back? Let me read you off a list of all of the veteran corners which are going on the market this season. Outside of Carlton Davis, who has the highest AAV of any free agent in the position. The next lot are Treverius Ward, DJ Reed, Jonathan Jones, Byron Murphy, Jeff Okuda, Razul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, Mike Hilton, Dante Jackson, CJ Henderson, Shaquille Griffin, Tre'Davious White, Mike Hughes, Michael Davis, Christian Fulton, and that's everyone above $3 million. They are all UFAs. Anyone stand out to you from that list, guys?
Fulton. He's a good man coverage corner, did it at LSU. But looking a bit lower down, unfortunately, looking at some of the lower ones, I'm not going to say Emmanuel Mosley. That ship has sailed. But someone who only got paid $1.3 million this season. He's played for initially for Baltimore, but this year was in San Francisco. Rock Ya-Sin.
Every single year we'll talk about Rock Ya-Sin. It's not going to happen. We'll get Benjamin juiced and we'll be happy with it.
Oh God, jeez. No. Like if people thought to sort of spring off Ant's tweet earlier, if people thought that Kindle Vildor was a CFL level talent, Jesus Christ, what they're going to think about Benjamin St. Just if he ever wears our clothes.
Hey, he's not Eli Apple, okay? Sorry, what you were saying, Ant, about people being mean about players?
Well, we've seen how vindictive you can be towards players. You know, we've seen that in full light. So you know,
I'm not going to pretend I'm anyone that I'm not. So
I'm a mean bastard, and I know I am. Yeah, at least you admit it. So, I mean, I just live in a world where I hope Carlton Davis comes back, solves the problem, and you know that's fine. Because then your corner depth is pretty well set, obviously. So, yeah. I'm hoping not to have to bring another free agent corner in this year. Let's just get some continuity going.
I don't see how we avoid it, if I'm honest. I don't think you can roll into next season with Rakestraw starting.
I mean, he won't.
I guess no. Sorry. Yes, you're right.
I mean,
yeah.
Oh, right. Sorry. If Davis doesn't come back, I mean,
yes. Yeah. So Davis doesn't come back. Amik goes back to the slot. Branch goes back to safety, which leaves CB2 free.
Amik will stay outside for me.
Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah.
And because I can't remember who tweeted it, but there were reports a couple of days after the Commanders where Rachel got interviewed and basically said if there wasn't that hamstring injury, he would have been starting the slot after the bye.
Yes.
You don't want to move Kirby or Branch either. That's worked a charm this year. So
yeah,
like you don't want to have to mess with that if you can either.
But Branch played more than half the season at safety this year. I'm just saying, like, we're talking about not trying to fuck with Branch, but we have done, and they clearly have a preference for him playing at safety as that kind of guy who can rotate down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You want to keep Branch there.
Oh, right,
I don't
okay.
want to move. I don't want to. You don't want to make Kirby and Branch. They found something that works.
Ooh.
So you want to keep that.
Ooh. If we're looking for someone to cheap that we know can start in the slot, there's a certain slot safety who's now a free agent. It's time to bring back the GOAT and Will Harris.
No. No. And no.
I, for one, would look forward to the IQ of the whole team going up.
That's the only time you would truly see me be mean. No. I'm with that. I would rather bring Akuda back.
I mean, Akuda is a good man corner, just don't struggle some injuries.
Wow, the look of disgust on Matt's face there.
Because I've got Kayvon Wallace.
Hell, bring Slay back. Slay's won his Super Bowl now. Bring Slay home. Let's just do that, eh? Isn't that
Yes, please.
So what's kind of funny about that is that Slay cast out on himself returning to the Eagles, but he's under contract and he's going to cost money for them to cut. So I don't really understand where Slay got that from. Like, I don't know why he feels like he might be leaving, because I think he's on the books for 10 mil, but they'll lose $6 million or something against the cap if they cut him.
And I think having him there for another year, it's just vital for Cooper and Quignon, like for their development. If you give them 2 solid years of Slay, them 2 going into year 3 without him, you would feel a lot more comfy that they're going to that they'll be. I mean, they'll be fine anyhow, but that extra year will just give them so much more.
Ash, just by the way, for the show's sake, you searching up stuff and going, while someone else is talking,
because I'm about to say
it's not the best audio stuff going on, man. Come on.
It's because I was going now because I was looking. It's because there is a potential out in his contract this year. So I suppose, according to Spot Tracks, them team might have communicated they're moving on from him. So according to Spot Track, there's a potential out in 2025. 2025 makes his contract a 2-year, $23.15 million deal. So it might have been that he's been told by the regime that they're going to cut him. They're going to look to get younger at that position.
So 2025, he has an option bonus worth 16.1 million this year. And
trade-in team acquires option bonuses are acquired by.
Oh, they have to cut him then. They have to cut him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if they do that, then the cap hit will be $14 million and the cap number is 13.7. So they'll lose 300 grand and he'll be done, as opposed to being on the hook for another 16.
Yeah.
It's just, you just see it's simple to keep him. He's still playing well.
You say that,
at worst, he becomes a depth guy and you let Quignon and Cooper do a lot of the reps out there and you get another guy, but he's been perfectly serviceable this year. The deal is designed for him to be cut this year. So I agree with you, Ant, and I think they should maybe look at trying to cut him and then re-sign him to a new deal. Because if they keep him this season, cap number's fine. $13.8 million for a corner of his caliber, that's fine. But if they do keep him and the option bonus is paid, he's got 4 void years, which will happen next year, so he won't be on the team. And the cap hit for him to not be on the team is $25 million that they can avoid entirely if they cut him. So they're never seeing that out. Yeah, but, I mean, they had 70 million in dead cap this year. They don't mind taking dead cap on. And if they get another Super Bowl next year with him. And again, cap's just going to go up. Cap's got to go up by more than 25. There's going to be 2 more cap raises before that comes in. There's probably going to be 30, 40 million more than what it is at this point in time. So a 25 million dead cap hit is nothing these days, providing you've got nothing else serious on the roster with it. And they're not in imminent danger of being in some sort of cap hell with all the guys they've got there. Because again, Howie underpays at the positions that are usually really highly paid.
So
Many
looking ahead
thanks
with
to
2020.
Big Aries 70 subscribing at Tier 1 on Twitch for his 37th month. Says, wow, just over 3 years. Thank you, Big Aries. Your support, much appreciated. Sorry, Ash.
So you're looking ahead to cut this against Spot Track, so take it with a grain of salt. But according to them, they'll be 20th in the NFL in cap space in 2026. So when those void years hit, with 103 million roughly of cap space, so they can probably take on that cap. It's just maybe it's baked in the contract like that, and they want to get Young in a position like you've seen how well Quignon's played for them this season. DeJean, they just might want to, as you say, get Young in a position to help them then keep this window. I know windows technically don't exist in the NFL properly. Just keep it going longer because they are getting old at certain positions. Like say he'll be 35 or 34 going into this season. Lane Johnson will be 35. They need to get. They're basically trying to look ahead, I think, and start the talent acquisition process early to make sure they can keep it rolling over rather than just suddenly have a massive hit like they had a couple of years ago where Kelsey retired, where Fletcher Cox retired, and suddenly like, oh God, we don't really have any established veterans to take up the mantle here. So maybe it's just a best of both worlds. Slay maybe goes and gets one big payday, last payday. They get Young in position while starting to keep the train rolling by replacing parts early, like maintenance basically. Like sort of like, we predict you're going to not be good in a couple of years. So we're going to replace you now so then we don't have that drop off. Maybe that's why it is. It's just a best of both worlds for them and for him. Because even if we don't sign him, someone else will. Chicago needs another starting corner.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This is from Aaron Schreier, who I've mentioned about the defensive front questions. He's going to add a couple of questions as well. Says he's got concern about John Morton coming in being a pass-happy offensive coordinator. Do we as well? He says, Kellen Moore just adjusted his philosophy to great effect with Saquon. Do you think that Morton can adjust? So just a little bit on Morton and his background. Really good article here from Jeremy Reisman on Pride of Detroit. But effectively, he started off in the Raiders organization for 7 years between 1997 and 2004 with various offensive positions, quality control coach and then tight ends coach. Then went into his college career, went to the University of San Diego as passing game and wide receiver coach. 2006, he went to the Saints for a brief moment as pass game coordinator and offensive assistant. Then 4 years at USC under Pete Carroll as pass game coordinator, offensive coordinator, and pass game coordinator, all with wide receiver coach attachments. Then he made the jump up to the NFL, was 4-year 49er wide receivers coach, 2-year Saints wide receiver coach before getting the Jets OC job for 1 year. And since then, he had a year off. He was a 3-year Raiders senior offensive assistant. Went to the Lions in 22 as their senior offensive assistant before becoming the pass game coordinator of the Broncos. So he's never worked strictly solely with running backs. He's always had some sort of focus on the pass game, whether it be tight ends coach, wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator, pass game coordinator, that sort of thing. But, you know, there's that oft-quoted stat about how he did with the Jets offense, that the running back Billy Powell had his career high in rushing yards while he was there. So it's not like he's against guys getting their opportunities in a maligned team led by the Walking Dead quarterback Josh McCown at the time. That team was not expected to be good at all. Do you think that John Morton has it in him to be flexible? Because his prowess at designing plays is talked about by basically anyone you can talk about John Morton with.
I'll give you 2 questions here in response, which will give you a very definitive answer for this. One, do you think Dan Campbell would hire somebody who would just want to go air raid on this team all the time? And 2, do you think he'd let someone take charge of his offense who was going to turn it into a pass-happy offense? Both answers categorically no. Dan Campbell likes to run the football. Brad Holmes likes a team that runs the football. They believe in trench warfare in this team, and the coordinators are just an extension of that philosophy. There is absolutely no way Dan would allow someone to come in and turn this into a pass-happy team. For me, that's a very, very simple answer. He will adjust to us, not us to him.
Exactly. And okay, I know obviously there was very much maligned in the Jets, as you pointed out, where he was very pass happy in that you look at the players he was working with, and you'd be passing the ball because number one, you'd be behind a lot because it wasn't exactly great. Like when you got like Jermaine Curse as one of your main receivers, though. It was a situation thing. I think him having the talent now of Monty, of Gibbs, of Craig Reynolds, if we bring him back, and the offensive line we have, like that's another key factor as well. We gave Hank the promotion to run game coordinator, or with the kind of regime that just go, oh, here's a new title that doesn't really mean that much. I think we're really going to focus on the run game this year. Yeah, we've brought in Morton, we've brought in David Shaw as pass game coordinator as well. It seems we're trying to focus on the pass game. Running the ball will always be our foundation. I think we've just got two guys there now as the passing game people because we're trying to replace the brain trust of Tanner and Ben, both of whom probably, again, had that more focus on the pass game because of the positions they've worked with, tight ends, quarterbacks. Running the ball was always going to be our foundation, always. So Morton, I have no concern. If we get to the season and it turns out that maybe it is that way, then I'd have concern. But right now, I just have total trust in the regime.
So I don't think John Morton's calling plays. I think Dan Campbell's calling plays. And if Dan Campbell's calling plays, there's going to be plenty of running. It's not just about what Ant said in terms of Morton having to buy into the fact that the Lions see their identity as a rushing team first. It's that Morton is going to be, for me, a glorified pass game coordinator. He's going to be the senior pass game coordinator, and he's not going to call plays. He has history of being a defensive coordinator who doesn't call plays. When he was at USC, this is from the article by Proud of Detroit, read it in more detail, please. That when Steve Sarkisian left as OC, Morton took over as OC, but the quarterback's coach called plays. So there's history there where he's been the OC, yes, in a college offense, and yes, 15 years ago, but there's previous for that. I don't know whether he has any appetite to call plays, but I'm presuming he did at the Jets. But
yes,
it's not unheard of. And the way that Dan Campbell spoke about it at the end of the season, it feels like he wants to call plays. So I've got no worries about that. Like, it's divide and conquer. Morton is going to design the pass plays, and Hank is going to design the run plays, and they're going to try and mesh them together so you can do both at similar looks, and everything's going to work great. All right, next question. Also, Aaron's last one, he asks, thoughts on what we do at the guard positions on the O-line? I don't think Glasgow is strong enough to start at left guard. Does he kick back to the right-hand side and Mahogany to the left, or Mahogany to the left and Zeitler to the right? That's where the question ends, but I'm guessing, or perhaps you have a suggestion of other things that you would like to see happen, or you think we'll see happen. What do you guys see as the Lions guard rotation?
All starts with Zeitler, right? We don't know what's going to happen until Kevin... And there's two scenarios. Zeitler comes back, you probably put Mahogany on the left for next year anyhow, and something happens with Graham, or... I think the more ideal... In fact, is it more announced? I don't know, just in terms of age. If Zeitler leaves, you move Graham back, you put Mahogany in, because it'll just make it that much easier. So... That it all depends on what Zeitler does, but those are the two combos. I foresee Mahogany being in either way.
Yes, same. Mahogany's in the left spot, either way. If Zeitler comes back, you plug even back or in a right guard. That's it set. Glasgow can fall back to that sort of premier, like sort of top interior backup option, both at centre at the guard. But even if Zeitler doesn't come back and you put Graham Black at right guard and hope that being between Frank and Penne helps him a bit. Either way, you're bringing in another guy, at least in a draft, even if it's a sort of later guy. You're not spending a premium pick on it, but you're bringing another guy in because, yeah, we've got Zorsdal, we've got Arashika who might be back, but we need to start getting a succession plan there because if Graham doesn't play, if this sort of damn turn in form continues next season, even with going back to right guard, we need to have another option because we saw what happened in the Commanders game in that few games of the season where teams were targeting Glasgow in the pass rush plans and it was showing. So we need to make sure that we've got a consistent backup option there now because otherwise Goff's going to get murdered.
Yeah, I think we'll end up with Glasgow and Mahogany starting.
Yeah.
I think most likely Zeitler won't come back at the moment. I think considering it's not under contract, I think it's the safest assumption to make. I think a draftee could start. And actually this is going to... So I'll go to this as well, because maybe that's an associated question in a way. Salem Bad Moon Rising from YouTube asks, how early of a draft pick will the Lions' first offensive position be taken? So for me, if Zeitler doesn't come back, tackle guard flexible players are going to be pretty high on the need-want list. And that could be first round to me. Whereas I think he was potentially suggesting, I'm thinking third round, hoping they get a better guard than Glasgow. Now, guards typically go a bit later, but I could definitely see us going in the first round for that sort of thing if Zeitler doesn't come back.
I mean, yeah, that's what the latest NFL.com mock draft has that's been released today, the 3-round one. With our pick at 28, we picked Jonas Navaje, the tackle guard player out of Arizona. There's some players that can do it.
It's never too early. And the fact is, this draft will be defense heavy at the top. With all these edge rushers and defensive linemen going, so that pushes your odds of getting a better offensive lineman pushed down to you. So if there's one there, I mean, you go and get them now. I mean, the pure fact of the matter is there's too many development rookies on our O-line already. We can't afford to really carry any. You either go big or go home on your offensive line because we're carrying 2 guys right now and we can't afford to carry any more. So if there's one there in the first who will be good for you this year, then great, you go get them. It means if they get in front of Graham, then fine. But we do need depth there. Like, we need a new center. Oh, well, we need a new center. We need someone who can play it adequately and while contributing somewhere else. Like, if there's a Landon Dickerson type there, take him. You do it. So it's never too early trench-wise, ever. And, of course, free agency has a big bearing on it's very hard to nail this stuff down. We might go and sign 3 defensive linemen in free agency and then it changes and all of a sudden tackle is your biggest need or whatever. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility to go day one on it, and I'd be completely fine with that.
All right, next question we have is from Mike the Marine, who has lots of questions, so we're going to get to them all. Starting off with, which lines are you re-signing? Now, we are going to be live as the free agency tampering window opens, and that is on Monday, March 10. That is a month today. So we are going to be live during when free agency opens, but we don't actually, I thought we would, but we don't have a strict free agent episode before then looking at which lines we're expecting to re-sign. So let me go through this list of players and let us maybe think about this in a little bit more depth. So the Lions have these players as free agents at the moment. Carlton Davis, Marcus Davenport, Kevin Zeitler, John Kaminsky, Emmanuel Mosley, Levi Onwuzurike, Khalil Dorsey, Michael Banchley, Kindle Vildor, Teddy Bridgewater, Carl Pico, Ezekiel Turner, Alan Robinson, Ife Melifonwu, Dan Skipper, Ben Neiman, Tim Patrick, Al-Kazim Mohammed, Pat O'Connor, Derek Barnes, Jonah Williams, and Quan Alexander. They are all unrestricted free agents. The restricted free agents, these are ones that you can compel to come back or you can give a tender for a set amount. Craig Reynolds, Anthony Pittman, Miles Adams, Shane Zylstra, Coyote Awashika. And then the exclusive rights free agents, these are the ones that you can compel to come back on the minimum salary, and they have no choice. And they are Trevor Nowaski, Michael Neese, Mitchell Agude, Connor Galvin, and Maurice Norris. So let me just go from the top, and maybe you can give me a very quick sign, depends, don't re-sign. There's a few players to get through. Carlton Davis.
Resign.
Depends on price.
I'm also depends on price, leaning re-sign. Marcus Davenport.
Bye.
Depends on price. For me, if he can come
Come
back...
on, we've done this with Emmanuel Mosley. Stop it. Stop pretending they're ever going to get healthy and good again.
I think that there are players worth taking injury risks on dependent on price, but I'm talking about nearing veteran minimum now.
He's not going to take that.
Well, you may be right, in which case I'm totally pipe dreaming it, but I think you could get him for 2.5.
Well,
That's
Spot
way
Track
too
agrees.
much.
Spot Track says 2.2. 1 year, 2.19 million.
Still too much.
Kevin Zeitler, we've kind of already said, I'm guessing we all want to bring him back if he'll stay.
Yes. Yeah.
John Kaminsky.
Depends on price. I'd really like to have him here as that flexible interior inside outside defensive line piece, but if I know he's got this will be his last sort of big payday in inverted commas, so if he wants to go elsewhere and get a bigger contract, I'd allow him. So it depends on price.
See, I'm kind of torn between him and Al Qadin now. I would quite happily. I don't want to keep both. I would want to keep one of them, and I would probably lean more towards Al Qadin. Kaminsky's another who's come off a. Like I said, this is not against them, but with the injuries we've had this year, we need to start trying to minimise our chances of sustaining so many injuries, and we've just got to be brutal with some of these. I don't know what his history's like before, but he's missed an entire year. I'd rather go with the guy who's been healthy and performing for us. So it's a no from me.
As much as I like Kaminsky as a person, I think that I do not see the value in him coming back, regardless of Mohamed's status. I didn't really want him coming back 12 months ago, to be honest. Yeah, he's a good player, but I don't want him as Edge 5 and DT 5. I think he's too expensive for that. And frankly, it's a waste of his talent. He's better than that, but just not for us. It's what the Falcons thought when they let him go to us in the first place, but the Falcons were wrong about their status as a team. But I think we need to be at the point where our depth is better than that. Emmanuel Mosley, 2.9 mil was his AAV.
Time to get another job, Manuel.
Yeah, I'm also moving on from Mosley, unfortunately.
You really need to ask me.
No, Levi Onzarike.
Yes. And I think Levi, given the ungodly amount of patience they've shown with him, I think they will come to a deal to come back. I think they like him. They've persevered with him this long, and I think the price will be right. So, yeah, you can never have too much depth on your defensive line. I'll bring him back quite happily.
Depends on the price, because I can see a team willing to sort of be that were hiring in the pre-draft process, seeing the year of health, happily give him a bigger contract than maybe we're willing to give him. And given what's happened to him, if he does get that bag, fair play to get that money, that injury guarantee, because I know we've had a really good season in being healthy, but if it flares up again, get yourself that financial security. I back it. Hell, there's a certain team who's losing a few DTs this offseason that really liked him in the pre-draft process, and then when we traded up above them again in the third round to get another DT, they got really upset.
I am dead set on keeping him, but like you, Ash, if the contracts get offered elsewhere and he wants us to match it, then I would reluctantly say goodbye. But you'd have to get to a pretty high number before that amount is too much for me.
So,
Um,
Spot Track has him at Jesus Christ. If we can get him for what Spot Track is saying, hell yeah. They're saying market value 2 years, $9 million.
yeah, that would be huge if we could get that.
Run that in. I was scared it'd be like 15.
That's about what we were paying commish, wasn't it? So.
Yes, it was exactly the same value. Yeah. Incidentally, by the way, pop quiz for you. Levi Onwuzurike has the joint 5th highest number of snaps for the Lions on defense this year with 697. 3 players broke 1,000 snaps on defense for the Lions. Name them.
2 players full 17 games, so Kirby and Jack.
Kirby, Jack, and I'm gonna guess Arnold.
Branch.
Arnold is correct. Branch fell 18 short. Arnold was 21 over.
Because of the ejection.
Yeah. That's worth 18 snaps.
That's it. And the
drop off is worth 1,000 snaps.
The drop off is crazy though. So those 4 were 982 snaps or above, and then Levi and Carlton Davis, the next highest, was 697. That's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. That tells you how injured this team has been. The sheer number of people who've taken between 500 and 700 snaps. Just either rotational guys who've been forced into a role late, people who were signed off the street to be starters later on in the season. I mean, rough. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sorry to derail. Thought that was fun. Sorry. Anyway, moving on from Levi, Khalil Dorsey.
Resign. He's a gunner. He is decent enough to spot starts at the corner for half a game if you need him to. Resign.
Yeah, I'm also on resign.
Yeah.
Low key. Let's be quicker with these ones now because they're all under 1.3 mil, Ash. So, Michael Badgley, goodbye.
Goodbye.
I won't ask Ant.
How long is he still Badgley?
Yeah, he went on IR.
So he's still technically on the contract for us.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. No.
Kindle Vildor.
Resign.
Yeah. He's grown on me. Resign
as your lowest depth piece on outside corner. And he does a little bit on special teams, I think.
He can fill in on Gunner, yeah.
Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater.
Back to high school coaching, my friend.
Come back for next year's playoff run.
Exactly.
Carl Pico.
Joy Boston.
I think he's, I don't know. A lot of these guys might end up back here on a practice squad or something. He'd probably be in that territory if someone didn't want him as a starter.
I don't see him coming back, but I would be happy if he was DT depth.
He's going to Real.
Ezekiel Turner.
Camp tryout.
Yeah, he'll probably be a practice squatter.
I think he showed enough in relief that if he could be a situational practice squad guy, get elevated every now and again, that'd be fine. Alan Robinson.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy Canada.
Ifeatu Melifonwu.
Depends on price.
Yeah, depends on the money. But I would like him back as a preference. If the deal could be done, I would like it to be done.
I will say, because I don't think the amount of money he can demand is anything, I will say re-sign. Because I don't think it will be dependent on price. I don't see him asking for more than 2 mil. Just don't think he'll command that. So I just think it will be a fairly...
They'll get a prove-it deal. Like guys like him and Levi, you give them a prove-it deal. 1 year to earn a bigger chunk of money.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it.
Which is why I'm saying the same kind of thought, where it's if a team that really liked him wants to take that gamble on him and offer him a bit more money, a bit more security, won't hold it against him for taking it.
Dan Skipper.
Resign.
Bring the big lug back.
Did you see his James Winston interview?
Mm-hmm.
It was fucking hilarious. But can I just say, by the way, Jameis Winston may have just had the biggest glow up of all time in that Super Bowl week. I mean, what he was saying when he was kind of coming onto the field during the season, it was clear he had a fantastic sense of humour, but all of the stuff he was doing as a correspondent was legitimately one of the funnier things I've seen this year.
Welcome to the train.
I'm torn on Skipper.
Go on.
No, I don't really. I'm not going to get off the fence. So, like, I don't want to say camp tryout because that's not the point. Like, you re-sign him, but then he'll be a 53-man bubble guy just because do you want to keep someone like Dan or not? Is going to be like, do we have someone who's going to do more of a job than he will?
So if the 53-man bubble decision is between him and Manu, who do you keep? Because I know who I keep, and it ain't the rookie.
So that is basically what I was saying in my head, but you verbalized it, so that's good. Depends how Manu looks.
And I guess it depends what the new offense is going to look like, because he is a part of our offense and plays into packages with our offense. So everybody has a guy like that.
You talking about Dan Skipper's package again? That's sorry. Oh, I made myself laugh.
Things like a tree trunk, but you know.
Many thanks to Pride of Detroit for subscribing at Tier 1 for their
shit, they're watching,
31st
month.
You absolutely.
Oh man, Jeremy says it's officially our year now. Of course, the 2024 season is over, so we're ready for 2025.
Plus, with the Super Bowl graphic having blue in it, no matter which one you look at, and it being in San Francisco.
All right, next up, Ben Neiman.
Camp tryout.
I would like Neiman on the roster as linebacker 6 if you're going to go there. I wouldn't mind it if he snuck back on the roster.
I'm with you. Tim Patrick.
Resign.
Yeah, resign him.
It's the most excited I've seen Ash on this list.
It,
Practically jumped up in his chair. Camp tryout. He went missing for 7 weeks. Like, he was legitimately really, really good for the first half of the season. And then he was not great. So, I would be looking heavily for an upgrade. I know that may annoy some people on the show, but
it'd still be good as wide receiver 5-6 even then, because he's not going to command too much. Like we're saying, what we say with Iffy and Levi applies to him.
394 yards this year in 16 regular season games. He broke 50 yards in a game 3 times, but 2 of them were in games 3 and 4.
It's more than what he does catching the ball. It's what he does off the ball. I can't.
I'm neutral ground here. I'm not getting involved in this. This is neutral territory.
Okay.
I ain't getting involved in this minefield.
Okay, so following the Buffalo game, it was at Chicago, at San Francisco, versus Minnesota, and versus Washington to finish the season. He finished those 4 games with 3 total catches.
And yet, because he was drawn
right, my dudes, out. This is wide receiver 3-4 we're talking about, dudes. Let's keep this in consideration.
Come on, dudes!
Come on, dudes.
We're not doing this again. We had this whole thing all of last offseason with me calling for an extra receive. I'm not doing it again. I need a new position to whine about.
I'm just saying we should go up and get Tetra and McMillan. That's all I'm saying.
You have convinced me.
Let's go, Tet.
Another Samoan, Polynesian. Another Polynesian on our team. Hell yeah.
So there are mocks out there which have Tet falling to the mid-teens. If he did, I would love to see Brad jump up to like 14, 15 and go and get Tet. just because I'm going to go and complete the offense.
Hang on. Who's picking 12 this? Who's picking?
Oh,
12?
yes! Draft pick a 12 again. Let's go.
Exactly. Trade up with Dallas. Pick 10.
I feel dirty now.
They need a few more picks to, waste on players that won't do anything for them.
Oh, who's the person I drafted in my mock who's getting done for homicide? Because surely,
Kyron Lacey.
thank you. Maybe he should be a Dallas Cowboy.
I mean,
No.
he's going to be in jail. He's not going to be. He's going to be mean machine wide receiver 1. Like he's going to be in jail.
Exactly. The prison team next year is going to have a fire wide receiver core because you've got him, Henry Ruggs, Jordan Addison, and
I mean, Ruggs gets out next year, so they've only got a 1-year window with him.
Exactly.
A free agent market's getting hot for 2027. 2026, sorry.
But I'll be racing to sign him.
I love Lions Twitter. I just quickly on the side. I've seen all day that like the pride and joy of these guys have been going. The Eagles win yesterday shows that you do not need to go out and trade for Myles Garrett. And then Mike Payton has just released the Eagles Super Bowl win shows that the Lions need to give the Browns whatever they want for Myles Garrett. Which one is it, dudes? I need to know. Do we need to do it or do we not need to do it? Come on. I love it. I love it when this stuff happens. Like, you need to do this. No, you don't need to do this. Yeah, you need to do this. No, you don't need to do this.
I look forward to finding out where Garrett lands, and then the subsequent Carlos article about how it shows that the Lions have no ambition and won't win the Super Bowl. I look forward to that article being written. In fact,
no, that's Woodward. That'd be Woodward.
Do you think
Carlos is boring now?
I think Carlos has already pre-written that article of why the Lions are going to lose the Super Bowl because they didn't trade for him.
He'll have one for Garrett, one for Cup, one for Crosby. There'll be one for every big player who comes onto the market.
One from Micah Parsons.
Carlos Monarez is basically Eeyore. I'm sorry.
I mean, isn't this crazy, though, in terms of one free agent window? You could have Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. To be honest, if all these guys do go on there, that dilutes the value down because there are not enough teams out there to start giving away their futures for these guys. I think you're going to be diluted anyhow. Like, some of these teams don't have no recourse with these guys. Myles Garrett is a very wealthy man who can just sit his ass down in Cleveland, never play another snap, be rich as hell, and someone will still pay him whatever he wants when his contract's done. They ain't got jack for him unless teams are really going to go in there and outbid for him. I don't think they will.
If Myles Garrett retires today, is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Can you tell the game of football without him? What is he's about 100 sacks now, isn't he?
I think
generally
over 100 sacks, yes.
Generally 100 and you're in.
I think he's only a one-time Defensive Player of the Year, but I might be going mad. But he's a 6 or 7-time first-team All-Pro. 6-time first-team All-Pro, I think, and 6-time Pro Bowler in consecutive years.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. Yeah,
he is 58th all-time in sacks currently.
How many does he have?
102.5.
Generally, I think it's like they say with receivers, you've got to have like minimum 10,000 yards and what is it, like 40 touchdowns or something like that to be on, unless you're like Calvin and you've gone at a stupid rate, but you've never gotten quite up there. But 100 sacks is a pretty good. I mean, what's Marshall Yonder got? He's on the cusp, isn't he? Like Marshall Yonder would be a good.
Marshall Yonder has a career sack total of 0 because Marshall Yonder was.
Not Marshall Yonder. Not Marshall Yonder. Who am I thinking of? Oh fuck, I got that wrong there.
Did you mean Calais Campbell?
Not Calais. Calais Campbell's still playing.
Yeah, but he's 110.5. He's 110.5. He's 42 on the list.
Has he won a Super Bowl, Calais Campbell? Super Bowl winner?
I don't think so because he played. Actually, no. Ravens.
No,
played the Eagles very briefly.
I'm looking at the wrong player, aren't I? Damn it, Ashley! Come on. Calais Campbell. He has
No, he's not.
no. He's not.
Played with the
He has
Cardinals
been,
until 2016, they didn't win one. Then Jacksonville until 2019, they didn't win one. Then Baltimore for 3 years. That was after the Baltimore win. And then Atlanta and Miami. So no, he's been on. Actually, wherever he's gone until Baltimore, they've been not great teams. I guess Arizona at one point, did they get good?
he was part of the Jacksonville team that made the AFC Championship, the Bortles, because that was 2017 when he was first team All Pro, and he was
Sorry, it was
second in Defensive Player of the Year.
It was Terrell Suggs I was thinking of. They're both Ravens.
Terrell Suggs.
I got the wrong side of it.
Suggs. Give me a second. Suggs. He is 12th all time with 139.
Oh, he's not in
Wow.
yet. All right, maybe. I don't know.
I think that Garrett goes in first ballot, by the way.
Yeah. But he can definitely go in first ballot with a Super Bowl in Detroit.
That would make things a little bit easier. Right. I'm going to move on. So we've gone Tim Patrick. So Al-Qadim Muhammad.
Yeah, I want to bring him back.
Same, and I will say it live on the podcast. If he makes 53 at the start of the season, I will buy his jersey.
Nice.
For one reason alone.
Why?
What number does he wear?
Oh, God, you child.
I mean, I was sicko enough to wear a long snapper jersey to the Super Bowl party yesterday.
30 seconds in the naughty corner for you.
Okay.
Don't make me get the wolf shirt out again. There we go. Can we do that for him? This is a thing. We need to make the naughty corner a thing for him.
For the audio pod listeners, he physically has gone to the corner of his room.
Yeah. There we go. You can come back now. There we go.
Oh,
we need to make that a thing. Right, we need to write up a list of things that we can do that's punishable by the naughty corner.
That was some funny shit. Right, Pat O'Connor.
Depends on price. If he takes a decent enough deal, I'll take him back as like DT5 out, DE5. That flexible piece.
I can't say because it depends how much other depth you've got in.
That's true.
There's only so many depth players we can take while we need actual starters in as well for these positions. So I would like him to come back if there's room after all the other guys. Yeah. I think it's the answer.
Yeah.
So I will say on that basis then, because I don't think he's getting any more than vet minimum. We signed him off the street. So I think he'll sign for vet minimum. And then answer your point, he'll be on the 90. And then he'll just be at the mercy of who we've drafted and who we've brought in free agency. Either there will be a room for him at the bottom of the depth chart, in which case that's a terrific depth. He was so good when he came and played for us. A couple of penalties here and there counted against him in terms of PFF grade. In terms of the down-to-down standard of his play from someone who was getting paid $1.1 million, he was brilliant.
Selfishly, it would be nice to have him on the practice squad to have if we needed someone to come up at a moment's notice. Someone had a game off or something, a little knock.
Agreed.
He's the kind of guy you want to have around just to come in and take some 100%. Of those snaps
up. Derek Barnes.
Depends on price. I really like him at that sound linebacker spot, but depends on the price.
It does depend on the price. I would like to think there's a situation again where he comes back, though. Like Iffy, I mean, they've spent years developing him, and they've gone through a lot of rough to get him to where he's at now. It's very counterintuitive to go through all that with him, finally get him to where you want, and then get rid of him. But it does come down to what he wants. If he suddenly turns around and demands a big-ass payment out of it, then of course you say no. But if his demands are reasonable, then you 100% bring him back. Again, because you don't go through all those years of getting him to where he's at and then just let him go. That defeats the whole purpose of draft and develop. What he does, where he's at for us, he is a very critical player. And again, we don't have enough guys like him who can blitz properly. So you've got to.
I would re-sign, regardless. I don't think that the amount of money he's going to demand is going to outstrip what I want to pay him at my max. So I'm just going to re-sign him no matter what. Jonah Williams. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Quan Alexander. Goodbye.
Yeah.
All right, that's all the UFAs, the unrestricted free agents. The restricted guys, the minimum restricted free agency contract, I believe, is $3.2 million. That is the right of first refusal tender. That means that someone can put in an offer sheet. If you don't match it, they go to that team. So you get the option to match whatever that salary is, as Ash was rightly saying there. Brock Wright had that tender last year. San Francisco offered him a deal. We signed the offer sheet to keep him here.
And it turned out to be less than a tender, which made me very, very happy.
$3.2 million then for any of these players, minimum. Couldn't go high, can put a second round or a first round tender on these guys as well. Craig Reynolds.
Nope.
No.
I would consider offering him a contract on the veteran minimum, but not the restricted free agency tender.
Yeah, that's...
The question is if you pay them their RFA, though, is what you asked. So that's cheating.
Well, okay, but
Exactly,
all of the questions on this are, do we want to bring them back? So if you can invent a way to bring them back, that's also fine.
Okay,
so
yeah. Then, yes, sign him to a contract that is less than the tender.
Yes, for much less than the tender.
100%.
Or you just go and get... I mean, this draft is stacked.
Absolutely stacked.
I to be honest, in fairness, I don't even think I'd bring him back on a reduced deal. I'd go and get a running back out the draft, and I would just keep preparing for the future.
I do think, considering we got 2 7th round picks quite late, just draft a running back in one of those 2 spots, because there's going to be someone I'm going to be fairly happy to give snaps to down there.
There's 20, 30 guys who can contribute on a roster sooner rather than later in this running back class. So, to be honest, I'd rather just go get someone else.
Big Aries says, happy Florida State Football Day. It's February the 10th. 2 and 10. Oh, man. You bastard. Big Aries. I'm so here for it.
Playing up to the crowd.
Anthony Pittman.
See ya. I mean,
Camp
he'll come
tryout.
back. He'll come back. Other teams have
camp
tried to make him work, but he's always worked his way back here. He will be on the practice squad next year, make no doubt about it.
Camp
tryout because it's special teamer. Special teamer.
Miles Adams.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Ditto. Shane Zylstra.
If we can get him for less than the tender.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm drafting another guy.
Titans another low-key stacked position this draft.
Yeah.
So camp tryout for me. Vetmin. Last RFA, Coyote Arashika.
This all depends what happens. This is another Zeitler effect. This all depends. Because if Zeitler stays and he gets pushed down the roster to the point where maybe not. But I would like him to stay here. But it all, again, this is a Zeitler domino.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you, Ant. One Pride 0427 subscribing at tier 1 on Twitch for their 22nd month says, let's go boys, Lions Redemption Tour underway. And then Big Aries says, I try to pick on all of you equally. By the way, in relation to that Ash comment. Many thanks, One Pride 0427. Appreciate you very, very much. Right, ERFAs. So these are guys who have no choice but to come back and the money isn't guaranteed. So it's basically camp tryout and then no financial penalties for the Lions if you want to. So you really don't bring them back if you don't think they're worth a position on the 90 because there's just no downside. Trevor Nowaski.
Bring back.
Yeah, bring back.
Michael Neese.
Sam too. Camp, bring back to try out camp because he can be a backup centre.
Practice squad.
Mitchell Agude.
Practice squad.
Yeah.
Connor Galvin.
Practice squad.
Try to beat out Skipper because he was looking good in pre-season before the injury.
Oh yeah, he can be a part of this team, but I'll have him on the practice squad ready. Keep training him.
Maurice Norris. He got re-signed, actually, didn't
Correct.
he? Oh my god, mad.
On a future.
He did. He got re-signed because it was the whole he had used up all his elevations. So technically, he was then off the squad because you can't send him back down to the squad. So we re-signed him to basically like a futures deal in a way. It's really weird.
So he's not even a ERFA anyway because it's just incorrect. Okay, so we've gone through the entire free agency list. So hopefully that serves as a comprehensive look at all of that. Going back to Mike Lemarine's next question, he asks, which lines coaches haven't been filled up? Yeah, which lines coaching positions haven't been filled yet? I believe the answer is tight end, wide receiver, and assistant quarterback coaches. And actually, you said, Ash, assistant defensive line?
Yeah, it was assistant defensive line because Cameron Davis, who was our guy there, we have parted ways for we don't know why, but we just parted ways with him.
Another one from Mike says, would you try and get DK Metcalf?
No.
I would assume he's still going to be asking a hell of a lot of money, so probably not.
Yeah, I'm also there. I don't think he's going to be worth what you'll pay him. He also asks, who makes the call to go 4-3-3-4 on defense? Is it the head coach or defensive coordinator? So an interesting procedural question.
I believe it will be Campbell because I know AG had the preference for 4-3, but in our first season, we were a 3-4 when we had Brockers, for instance. I think it'll be it'll be more of a collaborative approach, but I think Campbell will have the final say.
I'm not 100% sure. I guess with Kelvin being a first-time coordinator, you kind of want to take some stuff off his plate, really. I think, serious things like that would be... I guess they will get his input onto what he would like to run, and then they'll obviously bring in the personnel who will fit that system. So I would figure that Campbell will have a hefty say in it, but I think he will do it with Kelvin's preferences in mind, so that one day Kelvin can take it over.
Yeah.
Dan will have his schematic preferences. It ultimately ends with him, but he knows he's not a defensive guy, so I do think it will fall to defensive coordinator to ultimately make the decision, even if Campbell will take responsibility for the decision publicly.
Yeah.
Final question from Mike. If you're keeping 9 on our offensive line, who are you keeping? Or who are the 9 that you have?
Can we theoretically say that this is with Zeitler coming back, or is it without him? Because that obviously changes one of the spots.
I mean, if you wanted to say that it would be Zeitler or a free agent or a draftee of some kind, maybe that can be like a mythical position that we don't know yet, maybe. I don't know.
Fair.
However you want to answer it.
Well, who would be the 9 that we'd keep?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Isildur, Talion. Not the 9. Sorry, we're not on about Lord of the Rings. My bad. Sorry, getting a Lord of the Rings reference in there.
I like
Which
it.
Matt's probably never watched in his life, so that was to you, Ash. He's staying silent, so he hasn't.
I will defend you here.
It's my favourite set of books ever, and I've watched the film every year since I was 10 years old.
So you should appreciate that joke then.
Yes, but it was too obvious.
Too obvious. Get the out of here. Too obvious.
Oh dear. That was a great reaction.
I'm sure if he's going to be interrupted, a Lord of the Rings reference would be worthwhile interruption.
Yes.
How did Boromir not make your 9? Anyway, never mind.
Boromir's not one of the 9.
Oh, no, he's not one of the 9. But he's the 9 Fellowship. Could have gone for the 9 members of the Fellowship. That's what I'm saying. But you went for the Dark 9, not the Light 9.
Well, because that tells you everything you need to know about me.
Yeah. Anyway,
the obvious five of Decker, Mahogany, Ragnow, Zeitler / theoretical right guard, Saul, Glasgow, because he'll be a decent backup interior option, Skipper, Manu, and then Sawsdall. Right now, if you have to ask me, Sawsdall, because at least we know we can kind of play basically every position except for left tackle and centre. So right now, he's probably up. He offers a bit more positional versatility over Arash Seeker, which is why I'm saying him.
So I would be the same as you, Ash, apart from the last name. I would have Natane Muti instead.
I fucking forgot Muti. Yeah, Muti over Sawsdall, 100%. Hell, Muti is the theoretical right guard.
I didn't realise you were going to have that sort of reaction to that,
Wow.
but never mind.
I hate no.
Wow,
because I remember
Ash is kicking Mooty out onto the road. That is awful.
Exactly, especially
That
since
is
a couple of weeks ago, I was
awful.
like, we shouldn't overlook him as a potential replacement to Zeitler. I actually am really kicking myself right now.
Over Natane Muti, come on!
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember because we were discussing the futures contracts, and I had that 5-minute spiel about why we should actually potentially look at him as our starter next season. Right, God, if Zeitler doesn't come back.
And now you want him kicked on the street. Wow, he's really fallen out of favor.
I know, I need to go back
That's
in the Nautic
terrible.
corner, don't I?
That's terrible. You need to go back and admonish yourself. You can self-impose yourself in the naughty corner if you want for that, but you know.
Ant's getting
you know
drunk
what?
with power.
Never. This ring. This is what the ring does to you. It eventually gets you. It corrupts you. So hey ho. I don't know. I'd be interested with the line. Again, theoretically, Zeitler's here. You take that first five and Mahogany or Glasgow, who you're considering to be in that first five. So that's 6. So you got 3 more to go in there. I mean, it's very difficult at this point because obviously Skip will be one potentially in there. Leaves you with 2. And then you got your rookies, depth guys. At this point, I'm willing to risk Sawsdall to waivers to get him onto the practice squad. And if some team wants to take a risk on him, I think at this point I'm ready to take that risk with him. And I'm semi-confident that we might be able to do the same with Manu as well, although they won't because of what they gave up for him. But again, trying to find the balance, and we talked about this at the start of last year, there's just not much room for error when it comes to this. Like, you take Sawsdall and Manu, you're just not giving yourself much room to have quality depth round. So, and I think a potential 9 guys coming through the draft as well. I would personally take more than 9. I don't think there's any way in hell we take 9, especially if we keep all the developmental guys around.
Yeah, I think 10 for sure.
I think you take 10 as a minimum. It allows you to take the 2 rookies and then 3 depth guys with your starting 5, which is ideally what you want. But again, if push comes to shove, I'm willing to let Sawsdall risk to waivers now.
And you just answered Carltonwood's question saying, so you think we may cut Sawsdall? I think what Ant's just said, and by implication what me and Ash have just said, absolutely yes. I think there's a big risk that Colby doesn't make the 53. He definitely will obviously be a camp tryout guy. There's no doubt that we're going to keep him around for camp. But I think there's a really big chance that if they have a look at, as Ant says, if you can't carry as many developmental guys really as you've tried to, it might come down to a choice between Manu and Sawsdall for OL10. And who are they going to keep? And the thing is, Manu's just got a little bit longer to develop at this point. Sawsdall's going to be going into the last year of his deal when they don't see fit to keep him active on game day yet. So, just by virtue of the fact that Manu's got longer to try and develop him, it's a fairly easy choice, I think.
Yeah. They're going into year 3, not year 4. You said he's in the last year. They're only going into year 3.
So Sawsdall will be into year 3 of his deal.
Manu
will go into year 2 of his deal.
Sorry, my mistake. Regardless.
Regardless,
still.
Basically, what we're saying is look for Colby Sawsdall to be wearing Chicago Bears colours in September.
I mean, if Colby Sorsdal's their starting right guard next year, I'm going to fancy my chances
He's
with
not well.
DJ Reader and Aleem
He
McNeil.
won't be. He'll be their starting left guard because their starting right guard is Trey Smith.
I'd fancy our chances in that case. I'd quite happily scupper them in that regard.
Mm.
Let's give him Manu as well for a new left tackle.
Oh no! If we cut Manu, the Eagles are doing whatever they can to get him. That's the one thing.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the Chicago are going to way overpay for linemen again this year. They ain't going to do the sensible thing and draft their own guys. They are going to way overpay for guys again, and it's going to be quite funny.
Mm-hmm.
So Carlton Wood had some questions, some of which we've covered. So Carlton asked which current players are going to leave for more money, i.e. we won't pay them what they want for cap reasons. So by going through every free agent, we've kind of addressed that question already. Another question he has, which we've kind of addressed a little bit now, but we can go into a bit more depth. So he says, drafted players Sorsdal, Martin and Manu haven't been good enough for the game day 48. Will we go into week 1 with them again on the 53 if they aren't good enough to play if needed? So I think we've discussed that with Sorsdal. Manu, I think I'm okay with at this stage in his career. Martin, I think, is a much bigger question.
He said the game day 48. There's no way Manu's going to not be inactive on the first game day.
Oh, yeah. Year. But what I mean
he's not going. So he's not going to make. The question is, will they make the 48?
No.
Well, it says the question was, would it be on the 53 again if they're not good enough to play? So if they're not good enough for the 40.
Yes.
Yeah, so Manu will be one of the 5 that's inactive. Selfish scratch.
But no. But I think the overarching point of this is, if they're part of the 5 who are inactive, would you rather cut them than carry them as inactive players?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have. I don't know. Sorsdal's not been hurt or anything. So Sorsdal's just not had any injuries. He's got nothing to. At least in Broderick's case, Broderick's missed time. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but at the same point, Colby's got no recourse to his development. He's been healthy for 2 years, and he's had less of an impact than Christian Mahogany, who's been healthy for a day. So it kind of feels like the door's really closed on him in terms of being on it next year. Manu is just not close, but they've got to keep it. They've got to keep Manu there. I don't think it's a choice of, if you're saying, does he deserve to be? No, he doesn't. Will he be? Probably, because they gave up a lot to get him. In Broderick's case, it's tough. I don't know.
So Big Area says you can at least rotate the defensive line guys.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Whereas the offensive line guys obviously don't rotate at all, unless you're a terrible Lions team from about 5 years ago. Alter on YouTube says, I'm friends with a Lions beat reporter who covers practice stuff, and he says Manu is coming along much better than other similar picks like Martin and Colby for being so raw. This particular person is confident that Manu is Decker's replacement at left tackle. Which is,
I can back that.
It's an interesting take.
Yeah. So I know we discussed all some Manu. For me, with Martin, the thing that's, I know obviously he missed the start of last season with the injury. The thing that's condemning to him for me is the fact we have played him a couple of times. There was a Raiders game in his rookie season. He had a game or two this season. And both times the team have gone, no, and brought in other guys, and he's been pushed down the depth chart to inactive again. So if it gets to cut downs, and again, he's been passed up by veterans, is it fair to keep him around? We might be able to cut him and put him in the practice squad, which might be the best option for him. But at the same time, that would just scupper him, because then he's a practice squadder. That's what potentially might already be, because we're already pushing for more players on the defensive line. So he might get pushed down by another rookie DT. We might bring in another veteran guy. He's in order of the ones that have been listening to the question, Sorsdal's gone for me pretty much, unless barring something miraculous. Manu's staying because he's got the most upside and he's got a year on the other two. Martin's that liminal one to me where he really would have on how free agency the draft goes, because that might be if we do bring back Carl Pico, for instance, that'll probably be the nail in the coffin.
Agreed.
You always want to give 3 years to guys. You always
Yeah.
want to try and give them that window, but unfortunately, we're in a spot now where we can't be carrying too many guys. We've put ourselves in this situation really by having too many guys we're carrying. We've picked too many development projects as opposed to guys who can start. And when you do that, you run the risk that they're going to take years to develop, and then it kind of clogs up your system a bit. That's Sorsdal's problem. We don't have time for Sorsdal to have a third year developing because we need depth now, and there's new guys coming in, and it's the same with Broderick. I don't know. You can't afford a year 3 maybe because we've got 2 highly paid DTs. We need depth behind them, and we need it now if they go down. So it's really difficult.
So what you're saying is we should have drafted Christian Boyd instead of
Damn
Patrick
right.
Martin.
Damn right. No, imagine, weren't they different draft? No. Oh God, it was 2 years ago. We should have. But hey ho, I don't know where he is or what he's doing now. But
he's still on the Saints.
Yeah, well, they're going to ruin him. He's landed at the wrong team.
Might be starting for them soon enough, given the exodus that has to happen there soon enough.
Yeah.
Good luck and Godspeed, Kellen Moore, because you'll be presiding over the biggest screw up of a roster that's ever been seen.
Hey, at least he can sort of put the dick measuring contest with Derek Carr to bed pretty easily, considering he actually beat him in college.
He can go back to being air raid again there. Pass, because there's no way they're going to be able to run the ball behind that broken offensive line with Camera, who's nearly broken. He can go back to doing that again.
They should get Theo Riddick to be running back too. He's used to just taking screen passes as if it's a run play. As my fingers fell down. Fuck's sake.
I wouldn't wish that on any other team. Really.
Big Aries on Twitch asks, do you think the Lions hire another senior assistant for the offense or defense to help the new coordinators? So I think the answer for me for the offensive side of the ball is theoretically that is what David Shaw is going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, I think there's potentially an argument for it.
Yeah. I can't tell you who, but yeah, I definitely think we'll bring another one because we did it with Glenn, with Don Capers and John Fox. Just someone, even if it is just a sort of the administrative checks for Shep to basically be there and is like, oh yeah, you forgot to do this kind of thing. Just something like that, because it will ease the burden so much on Shep. I know Shep's been around us for a couple of years, but it is a big step up from handling one position group to suddenly handling all of them and having to speak to the offense as well, because defensive coordinators sometimes do that, where they look at film the opposing defenses. Just someone to help him do that. Might not be Don Capers, might not be John Fox. It might be, I know we had that guy who was helping the secondary last year. He might be able to do that role, but someone else.
We can rescue Ndamakong Su from Sky.
Oh my, yeah. Watching that yesterday.
You want another assistant D-line guy who could do that? Bring Sue here. Bring Sue home. He'll teach them how to be violent and collapse a fucking pocket. And someone who's familiar with us. And plus, then he won't get wasted on the god-awful Sky coverage of everything over there. He's better than that.
Oh, Jerome McCoy. Knows Casey Rogers very well.
What's Trey Flowers doing these days?
Watching his highlight reel every night to go to sleep.
No, you've got to be able to count to 100, Ash, before you go to sleep.
Has he retired officially?
I think he has.
5 years, he'll be up for the Hall of Fame.
Oh, no, he's still around.
Oh my God, is he? Is he in the UFL or something?
He plays for the Miami Dolphins, apparently. So it's basically retirement.
That's where all good players go to retire.
Question for Ant from Brent DeWitt.
Uh-oh.
Do you think Ty Robinson is a scheme fit for the Lions? Nebraska defensive lineman?
Yeah.
So I think he is a redshirt super senior 3 30-pounder DT, I think.
He's like
310.
24. He's on the older side. I think he's gonna hit 24. I mean, if you want nasty and violent, that's kind of where you go.
6'6",
They've
310.
got a
Yeah.
they're nasty, they're violent. Potentially, it wouldn't be my top option that I'd be going for, but I think schematically fit wise, he wouldn't be too bad here. Let's say he's big, he's nasty, he's gruff. I don't think he's got the stats to go with it over his career, but again, I don't really care about stats too much. But there are other guys I would look at first.
He's had a breakout year this year. Looking at his stats again, I completely defer to you on this, but 7 sacks this season, 12.5 tackles for loss, and did it against some big teams like 2 tackle for loss and 3 total tackles against Ohio State. 3 tackles and a TFL against Iowa, 4 tackles, a TFL and a half, and a sack against Boston College. Like those last 2, those are really good like offensive line schools you're going up against. He played pretty well against.
And do you want me to put you off him forever?
Oh no.
Oh god.
Sorry, gonna do it. Between 0 and 3 tech is where he predominantly plays. His missed tackle percentage at those positions in the last 3 seasons has not fallen below 17.
Oh god, hell no.
I mean,
he also does play out at over the edge as well. So he has taken snaps everywhere, so you can't say he's wholly playing 0 to 3 tech, but this season...
The thing is, nose tackles have less tackles, so their rates are usually a bit higher, because if you miss one, it's not like you've got 200 tackles and you miss one. You've got 5 tackles, you miss one, your rate's a bit higher, but at the same point, I don't know. I mean, that Nebraska D-line's been good. Like, their coach has just gone to Florida State, so you're going to see some bear moths come out there in years to come. Like, they've had a really good year. They're a really good unit. It just is DT right up my list right now. I don't know where he's projected to, but I think he'd be a scheme fit here. But again, there's hundreds of players in this draft process, not really one who's I'm completely familiar with.
I have no more thoughts on that, so there we go. Final question that we have is from JZ, I think it is on YouTube, who asks, do you have a favourite or leading contender for the tight end coach position with Steve Hayden gone? You know, Dan takes his tight end coach position seriously. So have you guys got any thoughts about who you might like to have as tight ends coach of the Lions?
Honestly, no, because all the good ones have basically either got promotions or stayed with teams this year. So the Jags one would have been a good one. The Rams one's now went and become an offensive coordinator. So it might go down to college. And unfortunately, that is something I just don't know enough about yet.
In terms of college guys, I mean, I don't even know who's down there. Isn't Freddie Kitchens down there at the minute? He was a tight end guy when he was. He's a tight end guy. I know back from his days in Cleveland and that. He's got NFL experience.
He was just hired. He's just got hired as UNC's offensive coordinator.
Oh, has he? Oh, in that case, forget that. That was the name that immediately came to mind down there. I mean, I guess you'd look for schools who've had successful systems, you know, sending tight ends into the league. I mean, obviously Iowa. I don't know who their tight end coach is. Who else has come out of there? Cincinnati produced Musgrave. Don't know who their guy is. Yeah. Tight end coaches at college level. I can do offensive coordinators and DCs, but tight ends coaches I come a bit short on. Who else has got good tight ends coach in system in college? Let's just, I guess, who's down at Texas? Texas always do quite well. I don't know. Look at it. Yeah,
So-
I don't have an answer. I would be completely lying to you if I said I had an absolute answer here.
So the way that I'm looking at this is I'm potentially looking at veterans who've retired recently. A name which is coming to mind, I don't actually know what he's doing at the moment, is Kyle Rudolph.
Is Robert Tonyan still playing?
Yes, he is. He was on the Bears, I
He
think.
goes. I mean, he's got to be close to retiring. Tonyan's got links to us. He's been a hell of... I tell you who the one would be. The big dog from Green Bay. I love Mercedes Lewis here.
The big
He's
dog.
played in the league for 20 odd years, and I know he's like his forte, and he was on rosters. He couldn't catch a ball to save his life. He was on rosters for his ability to block, play fullback, do all that dirty, nitty-gritty.
What do you mean? He was the only first-round pick to catch a touchdown from Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
And how many? Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that took like 10 years, didn't it? It
Yep.
took a long time. It took a very long time, but I would love Mercedes Lewis here if we're doing former players.
Kyle Rudolph is currently a Big Ten analyst for Peacock, and he hosts a show for Fox.
So I think that would be a good move, because people who tend to do analysis like that might actually be good coaches.
Lewis is still on the Bears.
Yeah, he's
active.
still playing, yeah.
He's currently the only active draft player from the 2006 draft class.
Other recently retired, exceptionally good tight ends, Jimmy Graham.
Oh, what? We're going to teach him how to score touchdowns. He's not meant to teach us how to score touchdowns against Detroit. All he ever bloody did.
So, someone rumoured to potentially be retiring this off-season is Zach Ertz.
Don't say... Oh, I thought you were about to say Travis Kelce.
Oh, I thought you thought I was about to say Eric Ebron, but never mind. I mean, he came and watched the playoff game, didn't he? That was the weirdest thing.
That's probably why we lost. He needs barring from Detroit. He's just bad juju.
Jared Cook retired 4 years ago. Delaney Walker. Don't know what he's doing at the moment. These are the names.
What about famous Lions tight ends apart from Diane Campbell?
Oh my God! I swear there was a certain one who retired last season that should be available.
Eric Ebron.
Let's just check. Yeah,
that's what I just said.
No, I'm thinking good ones. What's Brandon Pettigrew doing these days?
You said good.
Oi! Don't be rude to Brandon.
Oh dear. I can't see that Delaney Walker's doing anything at the moment.
What's Levine Tololo doing these days?
Scoring touchdown trick plays against Green Bay.
Oh, he's active. Oh, he hasn't been in the league since 2021. He might be worth a look. Plus, he played under David Shaw at Stanford.
Colton, I'm pretty sure Dan Rushar has been... Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dan Rushar's in the NFL already now.
Spell that surname for me.
Roushar, the Tulane offensive line coach. I'm pretty sure he's up in the NFL now.
He got
him recently.
Yeah. Ben Johnson did for the Bears.
Oh yeah, that's why it sounds so familiar. Yeah.
All right, that is all of our questions, and we've gone for 2.25 hours. So I think that is a good time to bring this to a close. Anything you guys want to talk about before we get out of here?
Well, I know we sort of better lead with it earlier. I know we talked about the Super Bowl, but the halftime show. What did you guys think?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. It was just a whole... You have to look into the deeper meaning to it, but I just thought it was absolutely great. It was Basically, getting Samuel L. Jackson to reprise his Django role made my day.
That getting Serena Williams to crip walk to the diss track about her ex.
I thought it was tremendous, and I just think
Mhm.
the only people who don't like it, well, I mean, everyone can choose whether they like it or not, but they do put on a show. I thought he were great.
And now with the break at the news that came out earlier today, he's had an upgrade. Obviously, going from playing for half a Super Bowl show that had less attendees than a League Two playoff final a couple of seasons to now playing for one of the best stadiums in the world.
And he's going to Aston Villa.
He's going to the. I didn't realise he was going to the Bernabeu. He'll sell that place out.
Fucking probably, yeah.
I have tried to just completely ignore all the him and Drake bullshit because I just could give less of a shit.
Yeah.
As a spectacle, as it was, I just enjoyed it. Rap is not necessarily my genre. I'm a big rock metal guy, but I appreciate rap for what it is. I've seen Kendrick already. I think the way he carries the flow is, he is an artist. And you can like rap or not like rap. I thought it was a good show for what it was, without knowing the deeper meaning behind what was going on.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Same.
And you know what? There were a lot of people who I was kind of watching it with, and the wider audience, who I think were disappointed that there weren't enough scantily clad girls compared to previous instances of the halftime show. That is something that they have enjoyed.
And doing the Simpsons clown car sketch was awesome. I don't know how they fit like 50 people into that car, because I was
that was
looking,
really
like,
good. That was great.
Because I'm looking, I'm like, are they coming up through the stage?
Yeah, they have to be coming up
no.
through the stage.
No, they weren't. You couldn't see. I was looking underneath the car, and you couldn't see any of them coming up.
But they couldn't all fit
crazy.
in there.
I believe it was because, like, not to ruin the illusion, because of the way it was being filmed, the other side of the car was open, and it's like a thing. They're literally just coming up through the car and that.
Yeah, it looked funny though.
It was.
I liked how they did that.
Oh, Jay-Z's just said he wants a Weird Al halftime show, and I am absolutely here for it.
I was just about.
Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen, since Jay-Z picks all the artists.
It's. I thought, well, what a great way to end the show by saying, "Who do you want to do next year's?"
What,
Tarzan? Is he a singer?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Like, I am going.
So, bearing in mind, this is going to be Detroit's Super Bowl. So, who do we want? Well, we're watching this, and like, it's going to be us there. So,
see, yes, considering I'm probably going to sell my kidney to go, I might as well make it as enjoyable for myself as I can. Give me Olivia Rodrigo.
I think so. Similar lines, slightly bigger artist, but similar lines.
Hang on, be very careful what you say here.
Billie Eilish, I would love.
Okay, I can back that.
Olivia Rodrigo is similar genre, similar style, but is like 2 years later, 3 years later.
But does Billie Eilish have the back catalogue to pull off a Super Bowl halftime? Like a lot of her, I don't know if it translates to, they like someone who's, you need something with a bit of oomph to it. Not denouting what she does, it's great, but
some of her music is a very jumpy, bouncy stuff.
Yes.
So she's wildly bipolar in her music, like she is as a person. It's either really jumpy or it's really depressing, and it's not really in between.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Paramore. I think they have the back catalogue to do it. But I maybe think they're not quite big enough. But
I would turn.
They're coming back.
Well, you would turn off.
Yeah.
Why?
They're not good.
Whoa.
What is the matter with you?
What the fuck, boy?
They're not good. You can point a sword in my face all you want, and I'm not changing my mind.
No, that isn't a euphemism, everybody.
No, if I'd have said meat sword, then we'd have had issues.
They literally have a song called Turn It Off, so I didn't know if you were making a pun. I thought you were making a pun.
I make good jokes.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Who else? I
Taylor
really...
Swift, anyone?
She has the back catalogue and it'll get eyes on it, I guess. But, after seeing her being so disinterested yesterday, maybe not.
I'm guessing he didn't propose to her in the end then.
No.
Through tears.
You only get a ring if I get one, or another one, a third one.
Stop it. Stop it.
I mean, if Dan's gonna go there, it'd just be great if like Metallica was there for him.
Yeah, I was thinking
that'd be the Dan
Metallica. Ash, grow up.
But to be fair, it's like, I wish I could watch Metallica this year, but unfortunately, I'm not paying £700 for that ticket.
I don't know.
I feel like we've had quite a lot of rap artists on recently, so we need to switch genre up.
So the reason it's been rap artists is because ever since 2019, the Jay-Z's production company has owned the rights to pick the artists, which is why we've had so many of like that kind of like rap and R&B.
I mean,
I love that.
Is that since Apple took the sponsorship as well?
Yes.
I think
it's all connected. It's connected. Kind of like how it's interconnected. Why did you notice the 4 logos that are on the field? The X, circle, square, triangle.
Oh, I agree with Otter. I'd love to see Charlie X do it.
Yes.
I would love to see Charlie X get a go at that.
This is very much just have the whole Powerpuff Girls, which is the 3. It's Charlie XCX, Chapel Roan, and Sabrina Carpenter. They're not that little like pop group. Unofficially, it's called the Powerpuff Girls because they each look like one of the Powerpuff Girls. Hell yes. And I'll get all my friends to watch. They can finally be interested in something like the Super Bowl with me. Finally. JK, they actually do like it. I managed to get one of my friends hooked onto it, though she's a Joe Burrow fan. So
I've seen Charlie XX live as well, and she was legit. It was a very, very good show. Okay, I think, should we call it there? All right. Our next show on the main podcast is going to be the start of our NFL draft series. We are going to be getting into the college prospects from the 2025 NFL draft. We're going to be taking, as we have done in previous years, position by position. We have not yet selected that position that we're going to be profiling next week, but we're going to have a discussion once we finish this. And then, of course, I'll schedule the show up so you should know well in advance what prospects we're covering. We're going to take a few players each, and we're going to report back with our findings. We generally try to take a range of players between those who are going to be drafted between rounds 1 and 7. So that gives you a good coverage, which means we'll miss some big players and we'll miss some smaller players. We're not going to be able to cover everyone in these shows. And of course, the earlier we do things, the less knowledge we may have as the process goes on. But it is time to start now that the season is done once and for all. And again, remind me what you're doing for the college podcast later this week.
So we're starting to rank out our top 5s for position. I mean, last year Ryan did it in general. I did it in terms of fits for the lines, but we're also going to do a little challenge where we're putting together a list of day 3 draft diamonds we think the Lions might go for, because it's traditionally been an area we've been quite good at. So we're actually going to put pen to paper this year and see if we can do it correctly.
It's going to be a great show. So guys, do go and check that out later this week. You can find us on our socials, Royal the Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the Facebook group for worldwide fans is Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. Our own Ryan Farden went to the Super Bowl, and the set of photos, videos of the people that he met and the game itself is absolutely spectacular. So go to the Facebook group if you want to have a look at that. That's really good fun. Otherwise, the website, rotluk.com. Please go and have a look up there. We'll have lots of draft content going up there shortly. And please subscribe, rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. It just remains for me to thank Anthony Fitzpatrick and Ashley Soden, my co-host, for doing this with me. Thank you to everyone listening in the chat, for being great with the questions. Appreciate you all. We'll see you later on this week for the college show. For now, let's go Lions, One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording
stopped.
Oh,